all nine come forward, and you shall be heard. God bless this great nation and the state of Tennessee. God bless Putnam County and this honorable committee. Mr. Chair, I find these premises to be in order.
Thank you, Major. Major, you stay right there for me just a second and join me in front. Thank you, Mayor. Randy, if you join me as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't thank Major Eldridge enough for all that he does for our commission and the premises here. He serves this county well, and I couldn't think of a better not to do this with his employees here in the Sheriff's Office. So, Major, I appreciate you. I want to present this to you. We're grateful for you when you're here. We're grateful for you when you don't have to be here. We thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome each of you here. We got a good crowd, and especially the Sheriff's Office. Thank you for volunteering your time to be here. I hope you come every month. I appreciate you. All the citizens here, I hope you come as well. We try to do good business for the county, and we're going to do that again tonight. Invocation and pledge be led by District 11.
It's my honor to bring my pastor out, Senior Pastor of Life Church, Pastor Bobby Davis, for the invocation.
Well, I've seen all these police officers and thought this was a setup. Let's pray together. Father, we just thank you, first of all, for this great community that we live in. Father, you've just bestowed your blessings and favor upon us, and we just want to pause and give you thanks for that. Now, Lord, we just thank you for the leadership of this community. Lord, you said in Romans chapter 13 that these leaders were given to us as ordained of God that we might live peaceable and quiet lives. Lord, you also said in James that, Lord, if we ask for wisdom, that you'd give liberally and hold back nothing. So, Father, we just ask you for your wisdom and your blessing and for unity, Father, for this community. In the strong name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you will take your handsets and just press yes and stop right there for me, please. Everyone press yes and stop right there. Good. Mr. Chairman, you have 23 present, 1 absent. There's a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Item number 5, approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion second. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion second on the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Minutes have been approved. Item number 7, unfinished business and action thereon by the board. 7A, report of standing committees. Planning Committee.
No unfinished business.
Fiscal Review Committee.
No unfinished business, Mr. Chair.
Nominating Committee.
No unfinished business.
Thank you all. Item 7B, report of special committees. This is where our consideration of the Putnam County fiscal year 2019-2020 county budget presented by the Budget Committee. I also serve as chair of the Budget Committee, so I will be presenting the budget as well before we get into the votes on the tax levy, that's where we're going to start. I want to give you a couple bits of information because I've had some questions on procedure. So, maybe this will alleviate some of the questions you may have for changes or anything you may want to do as a commission. I want to be clear, I'm not advocating for or against at this time for these resolutions, okay? The information I'm giving you is strictly transparency and information. As your chairman, I feel like I should give you the best information as possible. On the tax levy resolution approval, that's where we'll start next. The statute allows all county commissioners who are county employees to vote on the tax levy resolution. There is a conflict per fund, and we'll get to that, but on the tax levy resolution, all commissioners present can vote. Now, the proposed tax levy is 22-cent tax increase for a total tax rate of $2.95. If that motion does not pass, okay, then someone can make a motion for a different tax levy amount. All right? I've had that question several times. If that original proposed motion for the tax levy was not approved, someone can come back with a different amount, whether it's higher or lower. Now, if there's an amendment to the 22-cent tax increase motion, and it passes whether it's high or low, whichever way of the 22 cents, I just ask that you remember what I said last week. You have to make changes later on the fund balance or we're going to be out of balance, or the funds, okay? So if you're going to make a motion and vote on it to lower or increase it, we'll probably need to change the appropriations in each fund. You don't have to. It's going to put us in the bind if we don't, but we'll need the motion later on when we get to individual funds. Remember, to amend a motion, there has to be a motion and a second on the original motion. All right? So we cannot amend a motion that does not receive a motion and a second. If a funds 101, 116, 123 are approved as recommended without any cuts, and you want to go back and provide that funding as the original 22 cents, then somebody from the prevailing side that voted down the 22 cents originally would have to bring it up by 2/3 vote, and we can reconsider that 22 cents. Okay, so 22 cents doesn't pass. Some other amount passes, whatever that is. We get down to the funds and all those expenses in those funds, and it's not equaling out, upside down. Somebody can make a motion that was on the prevailing side earlier in the 22-cent original motion. Consider that 22 cents, because that is the original proposed amount. Okay? All these questions have been asked to me. I want to make sure everybody understands. Anybody got any questions? All right. On the fund approvals, each individual fund, and we have several, and we'll go through those. Once the tax levy has been approved, we'll move to those funds. The conflict of interest starts here. Okay? For the general fund, we have one commissioner that's an employee, that's Commissioner Tays. She's not allowed, per the conflict in Tennessee Code Annotated, to vote on this fund. So she will abstain. Her button she'll press is abstain. The Highway Department, there's one employee, Jerry Robertson, Commissioner Robertson. Same thing. When the Highway Fund, Fund 131 comes up, he will abstain from voting. Now the schools, we have 5 conflicts. They're Commissioner Holmes, Commissioner Randolph, Commissioner Atwood, Commissioner Bradford, and Commissioner Neal. So when we get to Fund 141, you will abstain on that vote. Okay? Now, the membership of the body changes with the conflict of interest. So for the schools, example, there's 5 people that have conflicts, and they're legit conflicts by law. That reduces the membership for that vote to 19. So majority to vote and approve that fund will be 10, not 13. Okay? Per TCA. Mr. Jones, if I'm wrong, you step in. If you're wanting to make changes to a fund when we get to those individual funds, then at that time, we get to Fund 101, you hit your button, your discussion button, and I'll recognize you, and if you want to make a motion, you can at that time. That's how you alter the proposed appropriations. Now, I've had questions about what is a tax rate passing and tax rate not passing. So let's make sure we understand the options. In my mind, there are 2 ways to fund expenditures or appropriations. You either increase revenue or use fund balance. So tonight at the commission meeting, to approve this budget, you're going to do one of the 2. You're going to increase revenue or use fund balance. the law allows us, if there's provisions in the law to allow us to move money from fund to fund. Now, you can do the tax levy as well, but that's not been addressed. For instance, if somebody wants to pay for one-time capital expenses out of a fund, they can move fund balance, general fund, any other fund that you may seem fit, into capital projects at this time. You can pay for one-time expenditures, a capital asset, as we discussed last week. So those are options. I've had that question. Can we move money from fund to fund? Tonight you can. During the year you cannot. The law does not allow that. Okay? The fund balances as proposed right now, because you may ask, if revenue comes in like we think it will, $1 million extra in general fund, and the departments turn over $1 million that they did not spend, we're going to end at $15 million. If you wanted to move $1 million, for example, we would end at $14 million. Now there's a big if. If revenue comes in more than expected and the departments turn theirs back in. Debt service, their fund balance is projected to be at $14 million. So general fund is going to be at $15 million. Debt service will be $14 million if everything goes as good as it can go this fiscal year. Okay? Questions? Let's proceed. If you have your budgets and your tax levy that you got received last week from Ms. Francis, you can go to those now. The first page is the tax levy resolution. So the tax levy resolution that was recommended from the Budget Committee is a total rate of $2.95. The increase from last year is 22 cents. 8 cents for schools, 14 cents for general fund. So the first item we will vote on in the budget process is a tax levy resolution at the rate of $2.95. If we're going to vote on it, I need a motion and a second.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the proposed tax rate of $2.95?
Who made the second? Mr. Williams.
Commissioner Donadio.
Yeah, if I may. Over the past week, I had 2 meetings with my constituents in my district. One at Thomas Twin Oaks, and I had another meeting over at the River Church. I advertise these meetings in the newspaper, use social media to try and, get individuals from the community out to these meetings. The reason being, I needed to know their input. I needed to know what was going on. At these meetings, I had a total of 8 members of my community show up. Okay? What I was looking for were suggestions on ways to cut the budget by $166,000 to reduce that tax levy by 1 penny. We couldn't come up with it. By those 22 cents. It's ridiculous to say, yes, we want to fund all these things, or we want to have all these services, but no, we're not willing to fund them. Do I want a tax increase? No, I do not. But I also like having services. So I'm going to submit that in. There is no way we can provide the services without having a corresponding increase in the tax rate. And it's 8%, which is next to nothing compared to the surrounding counties.
Thank you, Commissioner Donadio. Any more discussion? All right. Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll?
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you favor the tax levy resolution tonight, take your handsets and vote yes. If you do not favor the tax resolution, vote no. Everyone, please vote. And, of course, it's going to stop you right there. All votes are in. Does anyone anywhere wish to change their votes? Mr. Chairman, you have 7 voting yes, 16 voting no, 0 abstain, and 1 absent. Motion fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Do I have a commissioner that is proposing another tax levy? Commissioner Atwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In light of being on the Budget Committee, let me just say up front that I supported the Budget Committee. They worked diligently to come up with these numbers. I understand completely the apprehension for a 22-cent tax increase. I've worked, not looking for credit, but I've spent the last week with my nose stuck in the budget looking for things that might be, maybe we could do and still fund some of these. So, having said all that, Mr. Chair, I move that we set the tax levy at 18 cents. I may make that and came to that by taking 3 cents from schools, going from 8 cents to 3 cents, to 5 cents. That's about $500,000. Part of that motion for me is then to move from debt service $500,000 into the capital projects fund, and fund that to give the school now $1.5 million in capital projects. They won't lose anything. We'll reduce the tax levy by 3 cents. Second part of my motion to get to the 18 cents is to take line item 54-110-718, I believe, in the sheriff's vehicles, move $400,000 out of that fund into capital projects. I believe we have the funds without moving any more money in. Gets his cars, but it'll come from capital projects, and we'll reduce the budget again by 2.5 cents. Part of my motion, and this may be the stumbling block, I felt like before in Budget Committee that we kind of shortened our road department. So part of my motion is to give the road department that 1.5 cents. That takes us from 16.5 to 18 cents. That's how I arrived at 18 cents, and that's my motion.
Okay. Make sure I got it right, Commissioner Atwood. Reduce general purpose school fund by 3 cents to make their total tax rate 96 cents. Increase county road fund from 11 cents to 12.5 cents. That's going to put us at 18 cents, right? No, wait a minute.
Well, with the 3 cents from schools and the 2.5 cents
You're taking $400,000 from general fund, moving that money
the capital
into
project.
capital projects. That's going to leave our capital projects fund balance about $500,000, Mayor Porter. I think you projected to end at 921.
Well, with all those projects, we're bidding 2 large school road projects, which are over $2.5 million. So as long as everything goes well in all those big bids, be prepared. The only thing I'd say is, and I'm not trying to talk you out of this, I'm just saying be prepared that if we had to do something down in the year, we could always take one of those capital projects out of fund balance if we needed to. So I don't think it'd be an issue.
So we're taking 2.5 cents out of general fund because we're moving that 400,000, right?
Well, 2.5 cents is roughly 415,000, so it's a little shy of that. But my motion is 400,000.
So we need to calculate what 400,000 equals on the penny. I'm doing that right now.
In both cases, if I can say, the same numbers are going to be available to both departments. We're just finding a way to reduce the tax rate as well as to fund what we believed, what the Budget Committee believed were necessary increases.
Mr. Atwood, what was that line number you had a minute ago? You were taking 54
I believe it's 54-110-718. Am I right? 54-110-718.
All right. That's
Sheriff's Patrol
Sheriff's
cars.
cars.
Sheriff's Patrol cars, that's
Okay.
correct.
And you're taking that money and moving to capital projects. Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
right now, he's
400?
requested 700,000, we're gonna move 400, leaving him 300,000 in that line item, and taking 400,000 into capital project.
All right, what did you say about debt service?
We're gonna move 500,000 from debt service into capital projects to
capital
fund the schools.
Okay.
The additional 500,000, that I proposed for them in capital project money.
Mr. Chairman, I asked him a question.
Sure.
Mr. Atwood, so we do all of that, you're looking at a total tax increase of 18 cents.
That's correct.
County general being 11.5, roads 1.5, and schools 5.
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
So from 14 cents on the general fund to 11.5. Because I've got 2.4, but we can round up to 2.5.
Absolutely.
2.5, okay, that makes it easier. So your proposed tax levy, the motion, I'll read through it before I get a second. County general fund will be 96 cents.
County general.
General purpose school will be 96 cents. Yes.
Okay, just checking.
County road fund will be 12.5 cents. Sports and recreation stays at 4 cents. Debt service stays at 60.5 cents. Industrial economic development stays at 2 cents. Solid waste sanitation stays at 18 cents, and capital project stays at 2 cents. Okay, that's the proposed tax levy. With money moving from general fund, $400,000, to capital projects to be spent out of that fund instead of general fund, and then also moving $500,000 from debt service into capital projects for school capital projects. We good?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, that's the motion, in so many words or less.
Would you repeat?
I knew you was gonna ask me to repeat that. You want me to repeat the whole thing, Jim, Mr. Martin?
Just, if you would, the breakdown of the, different, categories.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The breakdown, for example, school is now.
It's 96 cents.
It will move from 8 to 5 cents.
Yes.
Correct?
So you're reducing the
General-
proposed
county-
increase from 8 cents to 5 cents in schools. They're at 96 cents. General fund was at an increase of 14 cents. Now it's at 11.5 cents for a total rate of 96 cents as well. County road fund, you're increasing it 1.5 cents to make it 12.5 for a total of 18 cents increase on the tax levy, which will make it 291. Total tax rate 291. Okay, I gotta have a second before I can entertain any discussion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Moss.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to give the county clerk's office the deputy clerk that they wanted at $25,050. Revenue that's needed is coming from, to transfer $15,000 from the line item 52500-169, part-time personnel that's already in the budget at the county clerk's office, to line item 52500-189, other salaries and wages. And this is gonna move this line from 527,400 to 552,450. And won't be any tax increase, because the money's coming from overage fees that the county clerk turns back in each year.
So you're amending the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Atwood, we clear on the amendment to the motion? Okay. So you're moving $15,000 from part-time personnel line item in the county clerk's office to a full-time position under deputies, and then need 10 more thousand?
$10,050.
10,050. Come from excess fees, revenue line item 45510. Okay, that's the amendment to the motion. Yes, sir. Hold on just a second. I'm sorry, Jim. Commissioner Christopher.
Need a second.
I didn't get a second, did I?
I'll second it.
I thought I heard one, I'm sorry. Second, Mr. Holmes. Okay. Is this to the amendment, Commissioner Christopher, or is this to the original motion?
The original.
Okay. Commissioner Jordan Wanison, amendment or original motion?
I've got 2 points. One is on the original, the second on the motion, so I guess I'll cover the one on the motion. The motion as well for the position.
It will.
Yeah. So I don't wanna tell anybody what to do, but I mean, if that's something that somebody's really strong for, you would think that you'd wait for that motion potentially till there's something a little more
Okay.
tangible going on. That's that's, I guess the thing I had to talk about on that, if I do have something on the original motion too, but I guess we'll cover that a little later.
Okay. Commissioner Martin? Is this amendment or the original motion?
No, this is more of a discussion. But I saw some head shaking.
We can't hear you. You gotta get close to his mic.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on the amendment?
Are we okay on parliamentary?
I'm sorry?
Are we okay?
Absolutely, and to answer Mr. Waterson's question, you can place that amendment on the next motion when the tax levy is presented if it doesn't pass the 18 cents. So it doesn't kill Mr. Moss's amendment. It would on this particular vote.
Yes.
But again, when we go to the next step, which is if that doesn't pass, there will be another tax levy by somebody with some additional cuts. That amendment can be placed on that as well, so.
Or we can do it when we get to individual funds. So when we get to Fund 101 as approval, you can make the amendment to that motion again. Any more discussion?
Good discussion. Let's go back to the capital funds. We're taking out a fund balance, correct?
Yes.
In the motion.
Yes.
Now, when we put it, for example, in the sheriff's department, if we put it in capital projects for him, that money can be used for the cars.
Yes. So
that is designated for him.
yes,
for that
that's
purpose.
what Commissioner Atwood said.
I just want to make sure.
Any discussion on the amendment? Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Is this with Dale's?
This is Dale's amendment to the motion, yes. You're just voting on the amendment now. Then we'll go back, if it passes, we'll go back to the motion as amended.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you favor the amendment of Mr. Moss, please vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote.
Mr. Ford?
All votes are in everywhere. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, I have to report tonight there are 20 yes, 3 noes, no abstain, and 1 absent. The amendment passes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now back to the motion as amended. So the amendment has been approved. The original motion still stands, changing the tax levy and moving money out of fund balances. Commissioner Christopher, you're not up there now, but do you want to discuss? If you are, hit your button if you don't care. I'll give you first chance. Go ahead.
Question for Mayor Porter, who's on the hot seat tonight. Can you recall any instance of having to tap into the capital fund mid-year for any purpose, just for illustrative purposes?
I can. Before I came to office, I remember it's been a few years ago, they had to tap $1 million for the jail, emergency repairs and replacement of I don't remember if it was a boiler or what it was at the jail. They hit it for $1 million one year. Yeah, fire code. Yeah.
And so if there's not enough to support that type of service and repair, where do the funds come from?
Okay, so the way capital projects works is we move money into it each year, or have for the last several years. It gets 2 cents of the property tax rate automatically, which is $325,000 or so. Then you move money. You've been moving extra money out of debt service into it to do these projects. Over the last few years that we've been doing that, we've been very lucky to, all of our bids have come in good. We've had extra money, so that capital projects fund balances went from zero basically when I came into office, or close to it, to 1.4 million than it is now. So you're eating into that fund balance where we were originally estimating it to be around 900,000 to $1 million. Now we're probably estimating it to be in the 500,000 or 600,000 range, so you're still gonna have a pretty healthy fund balance in that capital projects. But if something was to happen, and we needed more than that, you can always pay for capital projects out of county general's fund balance that has basically $15 million in it.
Commissioner Jordan Wanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to make a point here, and the point I'm about to make is no reflection on Mr. Jones or any disrespect to him. I mean, he's a good man and he does a really good job with the roads department, but I represent a district on the north side of Cookeville, and we're already experiencing a 15-cent tax increase in the city for transportation costs. And the district I also represent, too, up there around the university precinct, is it's heavily populated with a lot of folks who are lower income, a lot of fixed income individuals. So this is a hard, I guess you could say, bit for them to chew on a tax increase for the roads, especially when they're going to experience one in the city already. So that, like you said, Mr. Atwood, again, I appreciate the work you've done too, and no reflection on you either there. But that's, like you said earlier, that is kind of the hard part of this particular tax levy motion to look at, is the extra, I guess you could say, extra tax increase there, when we're trying to find a way to cut back the tax increase.
May I address that, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Then my suggestion is to you, if that's the only part of my motion that you disagree with, we can accept one more amendment onto my motion. And if you want to amend that out, we'll take a vote on that, whether that passes or not, and it doesn't kill the total motion. Is that, am you understanding what I'm saying? Not trying to put things into your head, but that's how you can do that if that's what you want to consider, rather than voting against the whole motion. Is that? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would like to make that motion that we remove the 1.5 cents off of the increase for the road department.
Okay. So the second amendment to the original motion, and that's the max on this motion per parliamentary procedure. So we've exhausted amendments at this point. So I have an amendment, a motion for an amendment.
Need a second. The road department?
To remove 1.5 cents from the road proposed tax levy rate in the road fund of 12.5.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, could we amend that amendment?
No. I don't. We've had one amendment that's been voted on. We can only amend the original motion one more time. Correct, Mr. Parliamentarian?
That's my understanding.
Mr. Jones? Okay. I've been wrong a million times. My wife is back there, you can ask her, so I'm wrong. I might be wrong again, but I've got two people that know. Okay. I'm not getting a second, so.
Second.
Okay. We have a second. Discussion on this amendment. Mr. Williams, Mr. Christopher, you want, okay, Mr. Williams is bypassing until the motion is amended. Okay, Mr. Christopher.
Yeah, so this is just to clarify. This is gonna be 16.5 total. That 1.5's not going back to another place?
No.
Stripping that out altogether.
Right.
That's correct. Any more discussion on this amendment? Mr. Porter?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know about the commissioners, but when you look at our future in Putnam County, roads is gonna be a big part of it. And you cannot expect Mr. Jones to continue to operate on just the gas tax money that's coming in. I formed a committee that looked at all the transportation needs. We had all the cities together, we had the county together, our planners, everybody looking at it. When you start looking at all the road projects that we're gonna be facing over the next 10, 15, or 20 years, but I know that I get a lot of calls of people that want this done to the roads and that done to the roads. I get more calls about that than I do anything else. And so I just ask that you think about our future when it comes to the roads and our infrastructure when you vote on this.
And if I can, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but
Yes,
I'll
sir.
make one more point. I'm asking for 1.5 cents. That's like $240,000. We're talking about the increase in asphalt, we're talking about the increase in gravel, we're talking about all the things, and we're only talking about giving him $240. So that's just point of order.
Okay. Everybody understand the amendment? No. We're reducing the proposed motion of giving the road fund another 1.5 cents. we're bringing them back to 11 cents, so they would not get that cent and a half. So the total tax levy would be 16 and a half cents if approved back to the original motion. So we're moving, we're voting to take the cent and a half away from the road fund. Everybody clear? Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Be
All right,
sure
ladies
they
and-
understand what yes and no means, please.
Yes means you're removing the 1.5 cents. No means you want the 1.5 cents to stay there.
Everybody understand before we vote? Everybody got it? All right. Now pick up your handsets, if you will, or if you favor the motion, that particular amendment, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone please vote, please. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their votes anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, have 7 voting yes, 16 voting no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. The amendment fails.
Okay, we're back to the motion as amended the first time. Everybody good? Any discussion? Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like a lot of Commissioner Atwood's plan. The one area where I have a hang-up is the reduction in the school budget from 8 cents down to 5 cents. And I appreciate that we're trying to save money for the taxpayers. I get it. I think the taxpayers want to see us basically do 2 things: provide public safety and provide quality education for the kids. So I have a question for Jerry Boyd, if you don't mind. I know you can't speak entirely for the school board because they have to make their final decisions based on what we do here, but I'm sure there have been maybe some numbers penciled here and there. Now, the schools originally asked for about $8.5 million increase this year. Of course, I don't think anyone thought that was going to happen, but you don't get if you don't ask. Then it was whittled down. We cut out a lot. Based on the motion that's on the table now, it's about $1.5 million, roughly, for capital projects, which will clear up a lot of projects for you, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, as proposed, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the total dollar amount going to the schools is not changing under this plan, but my concern is with the operational budget for the schools. Actually, with 8 cents, is 5 cents, that drops to about $830. That is a reduction of 37.5%, if my math is correct. What are you going to have to cut? I know that's the board's decision, but what things are you going to have to cut?
Sure.
For an additional $500,000?
Well, you know, what has been proposed to the board and for them to consider as they wait for this decision, the majority of it was personnel, not necessarily, not existing personnel, but growth personnel that we had planned. Also, salary improvements that we had proposed. The other part is new personnel for non-instructional staff like maintenance and technology to support the growing infrastructure. So those items are the bulk of what has been suggested to the board to consider for reductions. Once we get past that, we get into either re-estimating what we think our increase in cost will be, which we really don't want to, in the sense of you can play that numbers game, so we're going to be straightforward with what we think is going to be the actual cost on growth, so we can't really play with those numbers. It will get into services. We will reduce either look across the board at services and non-renew some recurring expenses on services that go to schools, as far as maybe digital content, digital media type services that our students and teachers use daily. Or the other pieces, we do have some growth that we know we have to address with personnel. And so we've accounted for that cost, but we may have to remove that. And then I may have to basically repurpose positions as far as shifting people out of their existing duty, which is needed, but ultimately we have to have certified teachers, qualified people in the classrooms. So those kinds of decisions are where we are right now after the expected reductions that we were looking at with what was proposed by the Budget Committee.
Okay. Is there room for another motion? Well, there's no amendment to the motion. We voted on two amendments, but they both failed, so they're...
No, the first one
Okay,
passed.
okay,
Whether they fail or not, you can only do two amendments.
okay. So I guess we have to vote on this up or down, right?
Yes. Commissioner Martin.
Just want to be sure that, that we're clear on this from Commissioner Atwood's motion. The Budget Committee voted to increase the rate by 8 cents. Mr. Atwood is requesting we reduce that to... It's not going to change the budget. It's not going to change the amount of money. It's equivalent. It's roughly $500,000 more, and they'll still get that.
It will change the tax levy.
It'll change the tax rate, but it won't change the dollars from what the Budget Committee recommended at 8 cents. I made the motion, we approved it at 8 cents. He's reducing it 3 cents to 5, but taking the same dollars, which is roughly $500,000, and transferring that from funds to capital projects. So they're getting the same dollars.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, and I do understand that the dollar amount is the same going to schools. But with 1.5 earmarked for capital projects, that really limits what they are able to do with their operational budget, and that's the area I'm concerned. I think it's great that we're filling a need in capital projects, but I'm really concerned about the county falling behind in their operational budget. We are a growing county. I think I saw something online the other day. We're expected over 11,000 students this year, possibly 12,000 next year. If we keep, quote unquote, tightening the belt on operational expenses, and I'm not advocating for any wasteful spending whatsoever. My concern, though, is even though the dollar amount are the same, they can't use it the way they need to. We're telling them how to use it by earmarking so much of it for capital projects.
It's up to the board and their decision how they move it around.
And if I may, the 5 cents is about $830,000 more than what they got last year. I mean, that they can add to their I mean, again, we can't tell them, and I know that's not all they need. Believe me, I understand that. But it is $830,000. The 5 cents will be toward their operational budget, and that's, I guess, my thinking.
Any more discussion? Are you, Mr. Williams?
Jerry Boyd again, please. Where's the greatest need?
Well, certainly responsibly we want to continue to address those capital needs, but, operationally is the greatest needs. That's what directly on a daily basis impacts our classroom. To answer the question, yes, it is absolutely true that the board could decide, and it'd be within their authority, to take all of that $1.5 million and put it into operational budget. But then next year, we would be back, and that gap that does exist will be bigger next year. So, and then in our discussion, and Mr. Ford brought up, I believe, recently, there's been history of where there had been agreements, and then even though it was well within the board's right to make the change, and they did, but it was perceived as being, breaking that agreement where the money was provided for a specific bodies. So we have laid out in front of you a list, and it was $1.65 million of proposed capital projects, deferred maintenance and also include buses. So, I think it would be within the agreement, if the money is intended for capital expenditures, that those could be considered by the board. Those are operational, but they are one-time expenditures, at least at that point in time. So,
And I would agree with that.
So I just want to clarify, but to answer your question, certainly the operational expenses, the recurring dollars in a growing school system, in a community that funds just barely above the minimum requirement of local funding, it gets more and more difficult every year.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. Commissioner Cassidy.
Mr. Boyd, if you would stay up there for a minute.
Trying to get back to that seat.
May be a while.
But I'm fine, yes, sir.
Given a choice, and I have an idea of what your answer would be, but I want you to answer. Given a choice, would you rather have $500,000 in capital improvements, or would you rather have in additional operations that again would carry over from year to year?
Well, of course, the recurring dollars, and those go towards most of those funds go towards personnel,
and
classroom teachers, and individuals that support classroom teachers.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's because you think that's the greatest need?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Neal.
I also want to ask Mr. Boyd, how important do you see these 3 additional SROs that have been removed from the budget?
Well, our belief, and I say ours, it's mine as the leader of the school system, and working with our elected board members, and then our principals in the schools and other personnel, and then working closely with the sheriff department. As far as our student safety, they're a big factor in ensuring our students' safety as well as our employees and our visitors. So, they are very, ultimately we want a dedicated SRO in every school. I mean, that's our goal, and it's certainly, we believe it's very important at the level of safety that we expect in our community of our children and our teachers and everyone in our school buildings.
Thank you. And I want to say we have a sheriff's office that is very proactive. They're in the schools. When they're in the schools, I think it's a positive thing. Everybody that I've talked to in my community, they have 2 concerns. One is we need to fund the schools, and 2, we need to fund the SROs and make sure that we have an SRO in every school, that they're not running all over the place, that they are dedicated and they're there and they support the faculty and the administration. And that's a priority for me, and I just wanted to say that, and thank you, Director Boyd.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, you please. Oh, Mr. Moss, you snuck in on me there.
He got set down on me, but that's okay. You can answer it. Will this put an SRO in every school?
What I understand is proposed, no, sir. Not a full-time SRO in every school. We still will be sharing some locations, is my understanding. Look to the sheriff. I mean, that's the way I've understood what's been proposed from the Budget Committee. What is the possibility? It would not fully address a full-time SRO in every building every day, but the sheriff certainly will continue to work towards that, I'm sure.
I know I'm going to sound against, and I apologize for that, but point of order, Mr. Chair, this is not on the motion. We are not considering SROs. If we want to do that, we need to get through this motion and then present another one that includes that. But that is certainly not a part of what we're discussing at this time, and that's, again, point of order.
SROs will be funded out of the general fund budget. They're not funded out of the general purpose school budget.
I apologize.
It's okay. Commissioner Ford.
Jerry, before you sit down, in this budget, I'm not going to rake you over the coals tonight.
That's okay.
you're one of the best that we've ever had since I've been up here in the last, and I've went through 3 school superintendents. So
Thank you.
I'm more satisfied with the schools today than I ever have been, and that's thanks to you. You have grants that fill positions at the high school and different schools. Have you got any grants that teachers are being paid through the grants?
Not as their full-time employment. We have after-school grants, so we do have teachers that work in the after-school program, and they get additional opportunities for increasing their pay on a rate. We also have, the one was Ms. Putnam that was up here. We actually have a partnership with WCTE, and she's doing community work as well as vital school work in early literacy. So that's the one person position in our system that is grant funded just for that position. We have had in the past, but we do not any longer have those positions as far as on a large scale.
So you're not really needing any of this money to put somebody on full-time that's been hired through the grants?
No, sir. We've tried to, when we do that, or when we have in the past, we try to make sure, you know, when that grant expires, then the person that's hired understands there's no guarantee of continued employment.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
Commissioner Wilson.
Back on what Dale said, Commissioner Moss had said about the SROs, and I'm not trying to get onto the other, but I want to clarify, if this amendment passes, because I know that we wanted 5, SROs originally were at 2. If this off, anything can come back after, if this gets approved?
So, if this motion as amended is approved, the tax rate will be increased by 18 cents. The general fund will be decreased by 2.5,
Right.
and that's due to the amount of cars
Right.
we're moving to capital projects. So that didn't affect any personnel in the sheriff's office. So it didn't increase his personnel budget or decrease it. So he's still, I'm assuming, at 2 SROs. Once he gets the money, he can move it to personnel like he wants to. But that's where he's at now. Now, if this passes, we get to the general fund part of the budget, then somebody can make a motion to amend that general fund budget to increase or decrease, however. The only thing I caution you on is, if you're going to increase it, that's where that motion to reconsider the question of the original 22 cents can be applied.
Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll. This is the motion as amended. The motion is to be at a tax rate of $2.91 total. County General at 96 cents, General Purpose School at 96 cents, County Road Fund at 12.5 cents, and then all the other funds are the same as they were proposed. So total $2.91, adding $10,000 to a deputy line out of budget of new money from fees for the clerk's office, and moving $15,000 from his part-time personnel into full-time. Everybody good? Mr. Clerk.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, Mr. Chairman, you have 8 voting yes, 15 voting no, 0 abstain, and 1 absent. So that motion as amended failed.
We still don't have adopted tax levy. Commissioner Cassidy.
Mayor Porter, I'll need a little help with this. I move that the tax rate be the same as approved or as given to us for the other funds, 93.5 cents for general, which would be a 5-cent cut. 97 for schools, which would be a 2-cent cut. And no change in roads, it would be at 11 cents. If my math is right, that would be a total of a 15-cent increase. And the appropriate changes to the budget, and Randy, this is where I need your help. I believe there are 7 total new positions in the general fund.
I think that's correct.
And approximately, what would that cost us or save us, as the case may be? I have that number somewhere in the 280 to 300,000 range.
I was going to say an estimate of 275 would be my guess.
We would be cutting out all 7 of those positions. We would be moving $500,000, as Mr. Atwood moved, to cover vehicles for the Sheriff's Department to the CAP fund, and an additional $100,000 from the Ambulance Department's vehicles budget to the CAP fund. And those 3 get us pretty close to the 5-cent change.
I got to cut all the new positions out and then move the sheriff.
The $500,000 like Commissioner Atwood moved, or was
His
that
was
400? I'm sorry, 400 and then 100 for ambulance service to make a total of 5.
Okay. $0.15 increase, cut all new positions in county general, move sheriff $400,000 out of his vehicle line item into capital projects, just like Mr. Atwood had proposed.
Right.
And move EMS $100,000.
Out of the vehicle, same vehicle line item.
And are you
into CAP fund as well.
And then on
Capital
schools,
project.
are you doing anything on the $500,000 capital projects or not?
Leaving it at the $1 million that's in there currently.
Leaving it to me, sir.
Say that again.
The $500,000 that Commissioner Atwood had proposed to move for schools, we would not be doing that. They would have the $1 million that we had already covered in what's proposed, and then a 6-cent tax increase. Okay, make sure I got you, Commissioner Cassidy. Reduce county general fund by 5 cents to make it 93.5 cents. Reduce general purpose school fund from 99 cents to 97 cents, a reduction of 2 cents. That's a total reduction of 7 cents to make an increase of 15 cents. Total tax rate of $2.88. Cut out new positions in general fund, any new proposed positions in general fund. Move $400,000 from general fund to capital projects for sheriff's vehicles. Move $100,000 from general fund to capital projects for ambulance. Is that it? That's correct. Okay. So that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion on this motion?
So where's, get over.
Hold on just a second. Hold on a second. Commissioner Williams, do you want to speak on that, or you're up there, so, or do you want to?
He just beat me to the button, that's all.
Okay. You got a question, Commissioner Holmes?
I do, so his motion is there'll be no new employees at all.
In the general fund. Okay. Commissioner Williams, now or?
Okay, I'll speak now.
Okay.
I can't support this, and I appreciate anyone who can. I appreciate those who are trying to be very, fiscally minded and keep the tax rate as low as possible. I know the people I've talked to in my district and around the community want us to do things. They realize that this is a growing county. They realize that a growing county has growing needs. We have a growing need for public safety. Just yesterday, there was a mass shooting in California. Now, it wasn't a school shooting, but it could have been. And I hope the unthinkable never happens in our county. But if it does, and this elected body that is responsible for funding things like school safety has decided to sit on its hands and not move this county forward in that regard, I think it's a shame on us. We have a growing school district. They need additional operational funds. Now, we can't give them everything they ask for. I think all of us recognize that. The reason I voted no on the last motion was not because I didn't like it. I liked everything about it. I just felt like it cut the schools too much. And of course, this motion is draconian cut. And I understand where Commissioner Cassidy's coming from. He's like, look, let's do something. Let's pass a budget. I get it. But I think it's important that we pass the right budget. So for that reason, I move that we table the motion.
Vote that we table the motion?
Second.
Mr. Jones, you care to address the table for us, please? Explain what we do when we table a motion.
It takes precedence over all other motions and it ends debate, so you have to vote on that tabling motion.
2/3.
2/3. Who seconded?
Mr. Neal, second.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Gale.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If we table this motion, does that kill any further discussion on any tax levy motion until this is brought back up?
Mr. Jones?
No, I don't think so.
Assuming the vote is to table this motion, can we discuss any other tax levy motions while this one is tabled? Would this preclude us from talking about tax levy anymore?
No, I don't think so. I think it just kills yours.
Okay.
Okay, we need to roll call for the table, please.
What exactly?
What?
We're killing the motion. We're tabling the motion that's been made of the 15 cents and the 400,000 and the 100,000. Yes means we're tabling the motion, which kills
Yes.
that motion.
Everything Mr. Cassidy just presented, we'll table it, it will go away. That's if you vote yes. If you vote no, then you vote to keep it alive.
If you vote no, then it's 2/3 majority, correct, Mr.
Correct.
Secretary?
That is correct.
So it's got to be 2/3 yes to kill the motion.
Right. All right, everybody understand? All right. Yes means that you're favoring tabling the motion, doing the table, which kills that. All right? All right, take your handsets and please vote. If you favor that motion to table, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion to table, vote no. Everyone please vote. All votes are in. Anybody wish to change their vote anywhere? All right.
Needed 16. Well, but the absence doesn't cause a membership reduction, it's still 24. So the motion fails.
Motion fails to table.
To table. Back to the motion. I'll wait just a second till you clear the screen.
Yes. Make sure that I don't want to get anything sideways here.
You ready, Mr. Clerk?
All righty.
Okay, so we're back to the motion. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Cassidy.
I would just like to say that Commissioner Williams is absolutely right. I'm trying to find something that we can approve as a body. The 7 new positions that are in the proposed budget, I don't want to cut those. I wish we could give everybody everything they asked for. I also wish we didn't have to have any tax increase. The reality of it is neither one of those are going to happen. We're not going to have no tax increase. Effort to find some middle ground, find something we can all vote for, and I'll go as far as to say is if one of the elected officials or one of the department heads can find me the money in their budget that equals that position, include the position and cut the other part of the budget. I'm not trying to keep people from hiring somebody. I wish we could fund 5 SROs and put one in every school. But you guys have seen the same votes I have so far. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. And I'm trying to find something somewhere in the middle.
I just did it.
And I will end by saying, and I said this at the budget or not.
Commissioner Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make clear that as we're deliberating here, we are not calling for cuts from last year's budget. This is still a sizable growth in the budget. Yes, we do have growth in the county, but I can't speak for everyone. I know I went to my constituents and I told them I would try to keep taxes low. And of course, my philosophy on taxes is each dollar that we take from the citizens that work hard for their money, it's a dollar that they don't have for their families, for their churches, for their vacations, for their homes, whatever else, their businesses. And yes, it's going to be hard to avoid a tax increase, we know that, but as long as there's places that we could be more fiscally responsible and areas that we can save the taxpayers' money, we need to be looking for those. I appreciate Mr. Cassidy trying to step out there on a limb and trying to look at places where we can continue to cut, because again, in mind, and we're going to be adding to this year after year. There's no telling a year or two from now, if we have a recession, what are we going to do as we continue to build this budget? So that's all stuff that we need to keep mindful. Again, this is not a cut from last year. We're just cutting the increase is all we're doing. So that's something we just need to be mindful of.
Commissioner Atwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make one comment toward that and present us something. Where are you going to cut? You can't just make comments and statements without having somewhere to go. If you want to go to last year's numbers, then make that motion. But as long as we sit here and discuss and talk about what we don't want to do or would like to do, we're not getting anywhere. So, Mr. Watson, and I mean in all due respect, tell me where you want to cut. Make us a motion. Give us somewhere and tell us where it's coming from. For us to vote no, then we're putting this county in jeopardy of everything. We're not moving this meeting anywhere. I asked last month or last Monday night, come prepared. What do you want to do? So give me something that I can support that you present. That's all I'm asking. That's the job we agreed to do when we accepted the seat we're sitting in. So please, I'm not trying to be hateful. I'm really not. I'm just trying to encourage us to move this process forward. If you don't want any raises, if this doesn't pass, we've got a motion right now we've got to vote on, Mr. Chair, as you well know. If it doesn't pass, then present that motion. See if that one will. But let's don't just make broad statements about what we don't want to do without finding a way to get there. Please, I'm asking you humbly. I'm asking you. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all due respect, and also in I guess you could say in communication to that, I think Mr. Cassidy's already done that. What I'm referring to is the fact that we almost voted to kill debate. And that's something that frustrated me when I first ran for this office about 5 years ago. We had a commissioner that did that. There's another commissioners that were trying to propose ideas, and just the idea of killing debate as we were trying to discuss options where to cut. Mr. Cassidy already has a proposal on the table that seems to be fairly reasonable, and just to cut debate was, I think, something that was a little uncalled for, I guess you could say. And that's up to each commissioner what they want to do, but that's a little frustrating that we would try to stifle debate when somebody's already got a proposal on the floor.
Commissioner Neal.
I just want to say we're going to have to take care of our schools. That's got to be a priority. And not only that, we've got to have SROs to protect them. We've got to have SROs to protect them. And if you don't want to vote for that, then I don't know what to say about you. But we've got to take care of the schools and the SROs.
Commissioner Martin.
I think it's in order that we restate the motion that we're going to vote on.
Okay. Again, we are reducing general fund by 5 cents to 93.5. We're reducing the general purpose school fund by 2 cents to 97 cents. That reduces the proposed 295, 7 cents to 288. Okay? We're moving $400,000 out of the general fund to capital projects fund to purchase sheriff's vehicles. We're moving $100,000 from general fund to capital projects fund to purchase an ambulance. That's the motion. Commissioner Donadio.
So let me reiterate on this thing. This particular motion wipes out all new employees. That includes all of the SROs that were in that budget, correct? There would be no new SROs added, correct?
That's correct.
I can't support that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Do I get the option to
Sorry?
talk about what he said?
just call, if you don't care,
Just
call
do
the
a call?
roll.
All right, let's call it off. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, excuse me, here we go. Check your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change your vote anywhere? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see the tally. Mr. Chairman, you have 6 voting yes, 17 voting no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Fails.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Still not a tax levy. Remind you, we have to have a budget passed by August 31st according to state law. First step in passing the budget is to approve a proposed tax levy. Commissioner Commissioner Wilson.
I don't know if it's possible, but I'd like to represent Mr. Atwood's motion. Is that possible?
You're calling the question. You can. We got to do a 2/3 vote, and it's got to be.
I mean, we can't. Obviously, we're not going to cut these SRO officers out. I mean, there's no. In my opinion, okay, we've got to protect those kids. You're not going to pass a 22-cent tax levy, as it stands right now. That right there is the best happy median that I've seen presented here tonight.
So, did you vote yes or no?
I'm sorry?
For Mr. Atwood's.
I voted yes.
So you cannot bring it up. A member of the winning side.
I just did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hey, that's an honest mistake. You can't make a motion, I should say.
Okay.
A member of the winning side would have to do that. So someone that voted no against the motion for 18 cents would have to make a motion to restate the question. It's got to be approved by 2/3 vote.
And point of order, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilson's free to make another motion.
He is.
He simply can't ask to recall that previous motion.
Exactly. So, you still got the floor. You done? Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You can make that motion.
Can you restate?
When we were in Budget Committee, and it came down for us to recommend a tax levy, the number that was originally put out would have taken our tax levy to $2 or $2.93, which was an even 20-cent increase. And then it was amended at the last moment and added 2 cents to the schools, so that made it $2.95 or 22 cents. The motions that have failed so far are 18 cents and 15 cents. They failed probably for different reasons. Everyone has their own reasons. So I'm going to make the motion that we go back and set it at $2.93. That's a 20-cent increase. Follow everything that Commissioner Atwood said, all the movements of money to capital projects, et cetera, but return 2 additional cents back to the schools. So they would actually be getting 7 cents instead of, is it 7 or? No.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
It was, based on -3, so it was 8 down to 5.
Okay, so then, okay.
Shifting the same dollars over.
So give them,
Yeah.
put 7 over with the schools.
Same motion he made, except.
The same motion he made, except 7 cents to schools rather than 5.
I'll second that.
So you're, instead of 22, you're at
20.
23.
Be 20 even.
Well, the original motion, the Budget Committee at 20 cents was 14 for general fund and 6 for schools.
But wasn't some of that in the general fund reduced below 14 cents because of the money that was being moved around with the cars going to debt service capital
Mr.
projects?
Atwood, there was, but you referred to the one in the Budget Committee. I wanted to make sure which.
I'm sorry, maybe I've confused someone. I was just using that as an example because that's what almost passed Budget Committee. What I'm proposing now is that we set it at $2.93, follow everything that Commissioner Atwood said with all the movements around to reduce the tax increase general fund. But instead of cutting schools down to 5 cents, they're reduced from 8 cents down to 7 cents.
If I may, Mr. Chair, there's only one problem with that. My original motion took 3 cents away from the schools. Now, your motion is adding, so the correct motion for you, I think, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please go ahead.
is just only to take the cars and put them into capital projects. That takes 2.5 cents out of general fund, and it takes you to 19 cents.
Okay.
You following what I'm saying? You're still giving the school their 8 cents. Am I making any sense at all? If you want to go to 20, and do what I did as far as the county general, then the only thing you need to do is move the sheriff's cars into capital projects. Now, if you want to move from debt service money into that to cover that, you can do that also. But there's no need in taking cents back in schools, and that's basically, am I making sense?
You would actually go to 19.5 cents.
That's correct.
Total.
That's what I'm saying.
So the schools will get their 8 cents, reducing 2.5 cents from general fund. That money is being transferred out of general fund to capital projects to pay for vehicles.
Okay, well then that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. General fund will be reduced to 96 cents. It's a reduction of 2.5 cents. Schools will be at 99 cents. Total tax rate will be $292.5. Okay. Moving $400,000 out of general fund to capital projects to pay for sheriff's vehicles. That's it, right? That's your motion.
What about Wayne? His employees still on that?
It's not in the motion, but
What is she asking?
he's welcome to, he's not in the motion, he's welcome to add it.
Give the microphone.
It wasn't
Mike,
Okay.
Mike's original motion was not to add.
Include the position there.
Okay, so,
Is that the road too, or the road? Okay.
just moving the money. Okay, I have a motion, and I had a second. Mrs. Bradford, you second it?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Any discussion, Commissioner Jordan Wanison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, this question is not necessarily on the motion, so I don't know if it's pertinent to now. I mean, it's a question for Randy regarding some positions, and also a question about the cars, but that doesn't necessarily pertain to this. I'd actually put that in before the motion come through, so I don't know if you want me to wait for that or not.
Yeah, we have to wait, I'm sorry. Commissioner Randolph?
Yes, if you're talking about his original motion, he included 1.5 cents for roads in his original motion.
Correct.
Are you including 1.5 cents for roads? That was part of his original motion.
You did not, but it's.
I mean, isn't that why we got to 19.5? Otherwise, wouldn't it be 18?
No, we were at 22, remember?
Yeah, I know.
And Mr. Atwood took 2.5 cents out. And Commissioner Williams is keeping the schools at 8, so that's the difference.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, Mr. Atwood brought it to 5 cents. Commissioner Williams is saying schools are getting 8, so that's the difference.
But schools are not getting the 500,000.
That's correct. They're not getting the 500,000. Their tax levy's going to be at 99 cents, which is what the original proposal was. And he's taking 2.5 cents from general fund and moving that money, basically it's a wash, moving that money to capital projects.
If I may, Mr. Randolph, to answer your question on the 1.5 cents for roads, okay? He set tax levy, that's where he went with the 20 cents. The 20 cents, if his motion passes for 20-cent tax levy, in this case it's going to be 19.5, then that road is not in there. In other words, he would have to make that as part of it, and that's going to take the levy that he's requesting back up to 21 cents. Are you following? So if this, as he's made it, there is no road money there.
Okay, any more, Mr. Porter?
We'll make sure we're clear so we keep up with what's
Sure.
going. You're increasing county general 11.5 cents to 96, is that correct? Increasing schools 8 cents to 99, and you're moving 400,000 out of the sheriff's patrol cars into capital projects, along with $400,000 to fund that out of the fund balance. and then you're adding Wayne's new position like we talked about before, giving him the extra $10,000 and moving his part-time around.
Point of order.
Is that it?
The position for the clerk's office got nothing to do with this motion.
You just added.
Commissioner Williams,
Was it a part of the?
Commissioner Williams added it, yep.
I missed that part, my bad.
That's okay.
Is that all the motion? Mr.
That's,
Chairman?
I think so. Commissioner Tace?
Yes, I have one question. Will next year be the reappraisal year also?
Next year will not be a reappraisal year. That will
Or it
be
is reappraisal?
the year after next, 2 years from now.
2 years?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Martin? Can you talk in the microphone, please? Microphone,
In your
thank you.
motion, you want to take the schools back to the 8 cents?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want it funded through capital? Taking it out of funds and putting it through adding it to capital, or do you actually want to raise it to
That's
the
not
8
his,
cents?
that's not his motion.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts here, so beg your forgiveness if I've missed a moving part somewhere. I liked everything Commissioner Atwood had said. The only thing was it cut the school's operational budget too much for my taste. So I'm trying to restore some of that.
But where is the fund coming from on the 8 cents? Before, we went back to the budget and we approved 8 cents for the board.
Well, then let's...
Then we reduced it through his from 8 cents to 5 cents.
Then what I would recommend is let's reduce, instead of giving 1.5 million for capital projects, let's put the 8 cents back into operational.
I have no problem with that. I just want to be sure which way we're doing it.
Right, yeah. So shuffle that from capital projects back over to the operational side. They still get, what is it, $1 million for capital projects instead?
Well, it was $1.5 million.
Right, but out of budget, it was $1 million for capital projects.
Correct.
That's where I'd like to go back to. They still get $1 million for capital projects. They go back to their 8 cents. So basically, the schools are restored to where it came out
That's
of
fine.
committee.
I just want to be sure
Right.
that at least I understand.
As far as the tax levy goes, the only thing changing from the proposed amount from Budget Committee is reducing 2.5 cents from general fund. Everything else is staying the same. Of course, we have the transfers and fund balance, we've got that in there, but from the original proposed tax levy, that's the only thing that's changing. Any more discussion? Commissioner Joe
What are
Watterson.
we looking at as an increase, 19.5 cents?
Yes, sir.
So we're talking $3.2 million increase. That's what I get. So we're looking at a
Yes.
$3.2 million increase.
Yes.
8%.
19.5. Tax rate's 19.5. Any further discussion? Mr. Clerk?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you, excuse me just a second, here we go. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Mr. Chairman, you have 9 voting yes, 14 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. The motion fails.
Draft 4 of my tax levy resolution, so to keep up with what's going on. Okay, Commissioners. Commissioner Jordan Wanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Randy, just had a question. How many, I don't know if you may know this best or somebody else, but how many open positions have we not filled that you're aware of throughout the county departments, especially those that might have been vacant for some time? Do we know a number on those at all, or?
No.
So I understand there's still quite a few open positions in some county departments. I've heard that from even some county employees here recently, and So I was just curious if we have any, if there's any truth to that.
Department heads that are here, any of you have an open position that you hadn't filled in a long time? I think that's zero. I can't speak for the elected officials. I don't, you can ask them.
That's what I was wondering about, like maybe even the sheriff's department. That's who I heard of in specific, sheriff's department. No open positions. And the other question I had too, on your vehicles, how much will each of those cost for the benefit? Because there's only 9 on the budget committee, but the rest of us were not on the budget committee, so how much does each of those vehicles cost?
So I sit up here, and I'm very respectful when I say this, but I sit up here and listen to what y'all are doing. And I want to remind you that all of you asked us for a 4-year plan not long ago. We all the elected officials gave you a 4-year plan. And now, during budget committee, there was a couple of commissioners didn't want us to talk about adding any positions. To start with, the very first meeting, wanted to cut all 22 positions. So then they cut me half, okay? And now we're down to can't pass a budget, and I'm wondering what you want to do with the schools. We went from 5 SROs to 2. Now, so how do I turn around and tell the teachers or the principal which school does not get an SRO? I don't know. You wanted a 4-year plan. We got you a 4-year plan. What we asked for this year at the sheriff's office is going to be going to next year, so that's going to be added too. It's not going away. And let me remind you, we got a jail coming up on the mark. Most of you have showed interest that they know we need a jail. We're going to get it. That's going to be a minimum of 30 new employees. Okay? 30 new employees. We tried to get that started this year. We got that cut in half as well. So I'm not sure where we're going, but I'm just telling you, we're already behind the mark. Not just sheriff's office. I'm sure some of the other offices, and I'll let them speak. But we need help, folks. We got to get this going. We're way behind already. Now, I know it costs, but this is a county that's moving forward. We are the leader in the Upper Cumberland. Okay? I ask you to reconsider on some of this money that you're really just, to me, not even considering at all. Not just in my area, but some of the other areas that I know it's needed desperately. I'll say it again. I asked for 5 new SROs to fill the remaining 5 schools. So we went to 2. What's 3 schools do I say that we don't get an SRO?
And my question though was on the vehicles, how much is...
I understand what your question is.
Right.
But I'm making a point.
Right.
We need to discuss it all since we're up here.
Well, I don't think anybody has any problem with the SROs I've heard about. The vehicles is what I was interested in though.
Mike, before you start, Sheriff, how much of your 4-year plan are you asking for this year?
Well, we broke it down into 1-year increments.
So is this a quarter of your 4-year plan?
Yes, each of you got a booklet, and so we broke it down in each year in the prioritizing order that we felt was needed to get where we need to be in 4 years, based on all the personnel, not just the jail upcoming, but deputies, SROs, all of it.
So amount-wise, the amount's going to be the same the next 4 years that you're asking?
Yes, it's going to be with whatever we don't get this year is going to be added to next year. It's not going to go away. Y'all may not fund it; it's your choice, but it's not going to go away, and it's desperately needed. We've not run the numbers up and tried to make y'all think that, well, we're going to ask for a bunch and maybe we'll get half. That's not how it worked for the last 5 years. That's not how we're working now.
So what was proposed in the Budget Committee is giving you 2 SROs, 2 seat correction officers.
That's correct.
1 deputy.
Yes, and 1 part-time.
1 part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 SROs next year, or 3?
Yes.
2 COs.
No, yeah, and the 2 CAOs will go to 8. We're asking for 8 next year. Remember, if we add a new facility, which y'all will decide that, but if we add a new facility, a minimum, we're going to take 30 COs to operate it, and we can't operate it we can't open it if we don't have them. So I'm trying to get started now so we don't have to do it all at once. Needless to say, there's no way I can hire that many people at one time. So We've got to keep moving, folks. I know you don't wanna vote tax increase. I'm a taxpayer as well, but we've gotta have these services.
So the sheriff's office budget's $571,000 increase, and the jail's $897.
Correct.
Roughly, that's gonna be, so, okay, thanks, Sheriff. Mike?
Mike's got the card question.
Most recent quote, we've been working off 43,200 when we started the budget process. July 11th, I got a new quote from the state vendor. It's increased dramatically to the tune of about 16% for an upfitted vehicle. We're just now for an upfitted patrol vehicle for the deputies on the road. Marked vehicle is $49,880.
Just so we're clear, the patrol deputies who are answering the calls, they get the new cars. The SROs and everybody else gets the used cars.
How many are you asking
We were hoping initially to replace 10, and we have 20 vehicles with over 125,000 miles that are marked patrol cars. We were looking to do 4 to 5 of them this year. Because of the increase by Ford as well as the other vendors out there, I've lost that, so I'm looking probably 2, maybe 3 that I might be able to replace above and beyond. So it's about 12 vehicles is where we're at. That's not including the new positions.
Reason why I was asking, if I can remember from, there was a budget committee meeting back, I think it was the final one, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Bennett asked the question about the vehicles, and he asked if, I think it was 4, he asked, because we know there's that rotation of 10, there's is it 2 for SROs, I believe, 2 vehicles for SROs?
2 for SROs, correct.
And then, the other 4, Mr. Bennett had asked, are those necessary this year? If I'm not mistaken, you may have said they're a need coming up, but maybe not necessarily this year.
No, we've got 20 vehicles with over 125,000 miles. You're pushing the limits with that.
Yeah, those are not counting the 10 that we're getting. The 4 extra was just trying to start replacing the 20.
Gotcha. I just had that question, because that's, generally, I was in favor of Mr. Cassidy's motion earlier. The only question I had is if those 4 vehicles are absolutely not necessary this year, and that can be a future, need there, then that's something that.
We're already behind. We're way behind already. We're just trying to be patient with you and trying to catch up slowly. We're already behind.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Moss?
Sheriff, this is for you. On these vehicles, then $49,000 some odd dollars, can we not do with something less expensive and still get the job done?
I'll let Mike King back up,
Okay.
but so we try to stay with one vendor, which is Ford. We've looked at the others. They're not the quality. We do our research on all the other bigger departments, Metro, Chattanooga, Knoxville. Some of the Mopar, Chrysler products do not hold up. We listen to our mechanics here in this county. They don't like them, they don't hold up, so we were going with the all-wheel drive Taurus, but they discontinued that vehicle. So now we've got to step up to the Explorer. We don't have a choice. So where we have to buy new, that's what we get. When we buy used, then we can go to the Chrysler products, and which we do for the SROs, but they're not running emergency traffic. They're at schools.
Are we buying new vehicles for the SROs?
Yes.
Just to go to the school and stay?
Yes, but understand that they're a full-fledged deputy, and if we get in a bind or have trouble, we do have to call them in at times and work. But yes, they have to be prepared with them with the used vehicles.
Okay, so you're not necessarily buying new vehicles for the SROs?
We are not buying new vehicles for the SROs. Not one SRO has a new vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Sheriff, before you sit down, just a second. The 900, 500, so 1.4 million just in those 2 departments, you're gonna need that going forward to finish your 4-year plan each year.
I don't have that number. I'm trusting that you've got my 4-year plan, you're looking at it, so.
Well, I'm just talking about this year's approval. The proposed is 1.4 million,
Yes.
and that's what year 1 of your 4-year plan.
We were planning on making do with what we're proposed tonight, even though that, on the patrol side, that'd cut us about in half.
Okay, thank you. Okay. This is my suggestion. We can keep proposing tax levies. We can move on from the budget process and go to the agenda and come back and meet next month. We're pushing it, I know, but, I mean, we're at a time crunch right now where we can call a special call meeting. Those are the options.
Mr. Chairman, make sure you got a letter from the State Comptroller's Office. I gave you a copy of it. Just remember, you are mandated to have a budget passed and for me to have the information into the Comptroller's Office no later than August 31st. They sent you a reminder today and specifically asked that I present that to you tonight, so I just want y'all to remember you're on a deadline here. It's not something that you can put off to next month and be able to come back and pass it and expect us to get the information to the Comptroller's Office. I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Everybody have the letter in front of them. Commissioner Atwood.
I voted no on the first motion, so I'm well within bringing that back up on the floor, the 22 cents at this point. So my motion is that we move back to the 22 cents, and I intend to change my vote from no to yes, and maybe we can find 13 votes, and so that's my motion.
Second.
We need a 2/3 vote to bring that back up. So we got to vote to bring it back up first. Okay? Recalling the question, the original question was the 22 cents. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this call, restating the question?
Well, restore the 22 cents, is that what it's
Yes.
on? Okay.
Mr. Clerk?
All right, this is a motion to restore, and then we go to further discussion at that point. Ladies and gentlemen, if you favor that motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Chairman, you have 10 voting yes, 13 no, 0 abstain, 1 absent. Motion fails.
So the motion has failed to restate the question, so we can't revisit that 22 cents. Okay? Any other suggestions? How much does an SRO cost? $96,000. Vehicle. Yes, sir. Commissioner Christopher?
Yes, thank you. So, the proposal was presented to us by the Budget Committee, and I just implore the 13 who most recently voted no to give us some idea of what is your concern. Is there a very specific thing that you're not seeing being funded? Is there a very specific thing that you don't want funded? It just seems like if we just keep throwing darts at the wall, motion after motion, we're not going to get anywhere unless we hear what are the concerns.
Commissioner Ford?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We take a 10-minute break, talk amongst ourselves, use the bathroom, whatever, see if we can't talk to each other, maybe come up with some ideas.
I don't think that's allowed, Mr. Ford. I don't think we can do that. Everything's got to be out in the public. Everything we say has got to be in the public where everyone can hear. We can take a break. We just can't get amongst ourselves.
Well, we used to always talk to each other.
What did he just admit to?
Don't anybody talk to anybody.
I understand that. We're not conducting business that way. So, Commissioner Christopher posed a question. Any of the commissioners want to respond?
I'll respond.
You got to be quick, Jimmy. I mean, you got to hit that thing. Commissioner Jordan Wanison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You can't talk to anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a lot of the questions we have already been stated tonight. I made it real clear, too, especially even on the transportation. I mean, here, especially in the city of Cookeville, we've just seen a tax increase of 15 cents for transportation. That's one thing. But just like I said, going back to my core value when it comes to taxes, every dollar that we take from the hardworking taxpayers, there's definitely services that are required. We definitely need to fund the folks who are providing those services. There's no doubt about that. And I know we're a growing community, but again, we are not cutting from last year. And we also got to keep in mind the inflation rate. I mean, we're looking at 8% increase, and the inflation's not gone up that much. Our growth has gone up, but it's not gone up by that much either as well. And there's a lot of things that can be done when you stretch dollars. I know in our own personal budgets, when we don't have the income coming in, maybe we didn't get that raise one year. Maybe we didn't. Maybe the economy's not doing well, like the recession 10 years ago, and you start looking for places where you can stretch a dollar, where you can start saving more. And that's what I think those of us who are, can't speak for everybody, but I think those of us who have not voted on the tax increase so far, that's what we're looking at, is how can we stretch these dollars the best? Because, again, as I said, that my core principle is every dollar, every penny that we take from a hardworking taxpayer is less. We go back even to the Obamacare example. I think a lot of us are concerned and frustrated with Obamacare because we don't like the idea of a faraway area taking our choices away from us. And the best that we can do is keeping those dollars, I think, in the people's pockets. And of course, we probably will have to look at tax increase. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think that we've cut enough. To be honest, I don't think that we've cut in areas. And I mentioned with Mr. Cassidy, I think he was right on the mark with his motion just a moment ago there, and I think the only concern I had is I did hear at that budget committee meeting when Mr. Bennett asked the question that those 4 vehicles they are needed, but they're not exactly needed this year. So, I mean, if I may, I'm going to actually make a motion right now that we go back to Mr. Cassidy's motion. I know it didn't do as well, but I'm going to go back to Mr. Cassidy's motion. The only difference I'm going to make, instead of moving 4 of those vehicles over to the capital projects to remove 4 vehicles. That way you're still getting the 10 vehicles and the 2 that are for the SROs, but 4 vehicles, if my math's right, about $40,000. That saves us about a penny on the tax rate, so that would be a 14-cent increase. And I'll go ahead and make that motion to keep everything the same in Mr. Cassidy's motion from a moment ago, except remove those 4 vehicles to make it a 14-cent increase. That's my motion.
Okay, I have a motion to take the tax rate from 273 to 287, which is an 8-cent reduction. Remove 4, did you say 4 vehicles?
4 of those vehicles, yes, because I believe that's the ones that Mr. Bennett asked about.
From the sheriff's budget?
Yes, sir. Again, with the 10 that for the rotation, they're still in, and then the 2 for the SROs.
Okay. I have a motion.
And a second.
You have a second. All right, Commissioners, I know you're lit up for something else, so, Mr. Neighbors, you clear that so I can get discussion.
All right, let's clear the whole board and let's start all over again, Mr. Chairman. All right. Now we're ready for discussion.
Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Williams.
We are not the federal government. We do not deal with Obamacare. The 8% that's being thrown around, and I've thrown it around, is not 8% above last year. It's an 8% increase in the tax rate from the last time the tax rate was increased, which was 2012. That breaks down to 1.14% per year, which is possibly less than the rate of inflation. So I'm going to vote no on this motion.
Commissioner Neal?
I just want to say, a lot of you know, I just left the Highway Patrol. We got rid of our cars. They started looking at removing our cars from the highways between 125, 130,000 miles at the max. And I want to remind everyone that the cars that we used, they were mostly on the highways, on the interstates, so forth, places like that. They're not on these county roads. I know Mr. Jones doing the best job he can keeping these county roads up. But I'm telling you, if you take the time, any commissioner needs to take the time and get with the sheriff and ride with him sometime, ride with his deputies, and see what some of these roads, some of these places they have to go, and see what they have to encounter with these vehicles. These vehicles cannot hold up like some of these cars can when you typically drive your car on the interstate or you drive it to and from work and you're taking it easy, how many times a day or week do each of you see a patrol car with its blue lights and siren on? I bet you everybody's seen one this week at least. These cars break down. They wear out. It's important that these guys have safe equipment. So for that reason, I cannot support this amendment.
Mayor Porter?
Make sure we've got the motion, what Commissioner Alwazan's motion is. Is it for 14 cents on county general?
No, 14 overall, the six, or the, was it, Chris, you said 8 for schools, right?
No, mine was 6.
6 for schools, 6 for schools, so.
6 and 9.
Yeah,
6
so it'd be 8 for county general and 6 for schools.
8 for county general, 6 for schools, and remove 4 of the sheriff's vehicles.
Yes, for that penny.
And that's it, right?
Yes, yes, everything the same as Mr. Cassidy's motion from earlier, except those 4 vehicles.
That is eliminating the employees is what the new positions, correct?
Yeah, because that's what Mr. Cassidy, like I said, I support everything on Mr. Cassidy's motion earlier, and I would have voted for it, but it's just, again, I appreciate what the sheriff's department does, and I'm in very full support of it, but when I hear that there's 4 cars, that's when Mr. Bennett asked that question, it was said that it's not needed particularly this year, then I've got to be mindful of the taxpayers of this county.
Okay. Commissioner Ford?
I just want to say, we can't cut these patrol cars out. We gotta have them. We need them. Those cars run almost 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. A few years ago, we made the distinction, and before Eddie was sheriff, that we would fund so many cars every year so that we wouldn't get in a bind. And I just can't vote for not cutting these cars.
If it means something that will pass, I can rescind the 4 cents, and I know, again, Mr. Cassidy's motion did not pass the last time around, but to get us to somewhere where we can be fiscally responsible and be mindful of the taxpayer, but yet also try to find something that we can pass. I mean, let's go back to Mr. Cassidy's motion as was presented earlier. I was on the losing side prior, but I would be willing to switch my vote over to yes for Mr. Cassidy's motion from earlier.
I don't think we can do that. With the only time you can recall or restate the question is the original question, which was 22 cents. We tried to do that. That's the original question, and that's the only time we can go back to it. So you'd have to make another motion, and I would prefer you not state it as Chris Cassidy's original motion. It's going to be your own. So.
And he is, because he's added taking the cars off, which makes it a new motion.
But then he said he was going to rescind that.
He's wanting everything in his motion, but he's adding something new, which makes it a new motion. Am I making myself clear?
You are, but I'm not.
Well, I said I would rescind that. If it means something that would, Mr. Ford said he wouldn't vote for that. I'm just trying to find some sort of, maybe getting closer to a consensus. I'm trying to do the best we can. I want to try to find something that we can be fiscally responsible again and try to do the best we can for the taxpayer, but yet give us what we need as well, and try to find that good balance. That's our job.
And my point is he's not trying to bring up an old motion. He is presenting a new motion because it's got additional information in it now. It is now removing something that he didn't remove, which is the cars, those 4 cars. You follow? Am I following, Mr.?
Commissioner Watterson, did you want to add those 4 cars back, though?
I can add those cars back in, but
then you're right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Commissioner Cassidy.
Sheriff, I mentioned when my motion was up earlier that I would love to work with any of the elected officials or any of the department heads. I know that the 2 SROs that the Budget Committee proposed was cut out of my motion and is cut out of this motion. Mike, Sheriff, can you guys help me find that money, and I'll amend this motion. I'd love to approve these 2 SROs.
What I would ask, Commissioner, is put the other 3 back in. We don't need to talk about how to fund 2. We need them all. I appreciate your concern, but you and Commissioner Adams are the very ones who wanted the very first meeting in our budget is to cut all 22 positions. So that told us right then you wasn't really wanting to work with us.
Well,
so regardless of what you say,
Sheriff,
Mr. Wanison,
I want you to talk, but.
Yeah,
just-
I am.
Don't
But
say
I'm-
you won't work
I'm-
with us,
I'm-
that's a matter of opinion, and
No,
we're
but I'm
sacrificing.
addressing, he
I
asked, so I'm addressing.
I understand, but he could've changed his mind since then, but you have the right to say
And
that.
And I wished he would.
Yeah, and
I
I
really
will
do.
say, Sheriff,
He's asking you
I
now.
voted to cut every position out of every department.
You did,
Uh,
and you decided that at the very first meeting. You and Commissioner Adams did.
Well, we're at a commission meeting, so he's proposing something to you.
Sure.
You can.
No, he's asking a question or making a statement, I'm not sure.
I appreciate your answer to my question, so
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
So, if we do 3 more SROs, we're looking at more money as well. Commissioner Atwood?
We have no motion, is that right, on the floor?
We still got.
Commissioner Wanderson, did you finish your motion?
Well, when I said I put those vehicles back in, of course, I went back to the other motion from earlier, so I guess, like you said, we can't do that.
So we don't have one, you're correct.
All right, let me try again.
Commissioner Atwood?
Bear with me. I set the tax levy at 19 cents. I move for Commissioner Williams from 8 cents to 6 cents for the schools. I move 300,000 from debt service into capital projects, and I give the school that $300,000. So I've added a penny back to the schools that Mr. Williams was concerned about from administrative services. Everything else, the sheriff's cars, I move into capital projects, $400,000, and let that pay for it. We've gone, I also am gonna add my penny and a half back to the road department. So I'm gonna fight for that if I can get it. But that moves us to a 19-cent tax levy.
So,
Who seconded that? Did you second that?
now you said 300,000 from capital projects to schools.
Debt service.
Okay, debt service. I wanted to make sure.
Debt service into capital projects to cover that additional 2 cents that we're taking away from schools and giving it to them in a capital budget. Same money. We've gone from my original motion, which was 5 cents, to the schools to 6 cents.
Adding a cent and a half back to the highway fund.
Absolutely.
Did you get a second on that?
He did.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Ms. Bradford.
Okay.
And that would reduce the general fund back down to 2.5 cents. So, general fund's reduced 2.5 cents, schools are reduced 2 cents, highway fund is added 1.5 cents, $300,000 from debt service to capital projects for school capital projects, $400,000 from, capital projects for sheriff's vehicles. Did that cover it, Mr. Atwood?
I think so. Is Wayne's position in there, Mr. Chairman?
He did not mention that. The question is Mr. Neighbor's position in there?
Well, let me just, I'm sure Mr. Moss is gonna make that amendment, and it passed last time, so let me just add that also. What that did, and I duplicate his amendment, which, in my motion, which was to move that 15,000 from that one line item into the employee line items, and cover the additional 10 with general,
Fees.
county general.
Fees.
But yes, I'll make that part of my motion. It doesn't increase the levy at all.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
So we're back to a rate of $2.92, increase of 19 cents, correct? Discussion, Commissioner Christopher.
You want me to clear this? You want me to clear this and start?
Okay.
You want me to clear it and start
Oh,
over?
you can, sure.
All right, let's clear it and start over. That way okay, now.
Any discussion on this motion? Commissioner Holmes,
What does that do for the, school resource officers?
he's still getting 2.
Okay.
Commissioner Randolph.
Well, I'd like to see those resource officers as well, because I think we need them, and there was a lot of talk about that when I ran in my district, and I promised that I would support those, that I would support whatever decision that, Mr. Boyd and the sheriff came up with. I didn't have the answer for them, how we'd protect our kids,
But I said, when they do come up with an idea or a way to do that, I'll support that. I would like to see those SRO officers as well. However, we're looking at a tax rate of 19 to 22 cents. We have about between $30 and $35 million in a savings account, basically, in fund balances. And we're wanting to raise taxes 22 cents. I think that Mr. Atwood has a good motion because he's using some of that money. If it were up to me, I would use more and reduce the tax rate. But I think he has a good motion, and I'm going to vote for it.
Commissioner Cassidy?
Just to be clear, 19 cents total, and 8 new positions in general fund.
Yes. Commissioner Sandlin?
You know, looking at our county as a business, we all want to grow. It takes capital to grow. You've got to plug money back in. We all are proud of where we live. We like to say it's a great place to live. It's not going to continue to be if we don't pour money back into our infrastructure, and our county government is infrastructure. So, 8% increase. We've been riding the last few years, in my opinion, on the growing economy. You know, sales tax is up, everything's been up. That's not going to keep going. As a matter of fact, this year we flatlined. So, you know, I just feel like this is something I can support and support our county.
Commissioner Martin?
Totally agree. Sometimes we forget to invest in the city that we love. And I found no unreasonable request at this point, and I think Mr. Atwood has studied this. I agree with him wholeheartedly. We can stay here all night and not accomplish anything for this community. We have an obligation as commissioners to serve our district. Each one of us also has the duty to serve the entire county, regardless of our district. And we have other needs that I'd like to bring up. I won't. But I think this is reasonable, and I feel like we need to push forward, get the job done tonight, because there's many other areas of this county that needs to be looked at and improved, and we have to start somewhere, and I think tonight is a good place to start.
Commissioner Donadio?
With this motion, which I intend to support, where is this going to put our fund balance? And just so everybody knows, what's the significance of fund balance for our borrowing capability, and why does it have to be the way it is?
It depends on the return on revenue, or the increase in revenue we may get. Depends on how much money our department heads turn back over. Historically, they turned over $1 million per year. Last year was not as good because we had some amendments to the budget. Revenue was at $700,000 more, I believe, instead of $1 million. So if it's a great year, $1 million plus in revenue, $1 million turned over, we're going to look at roughly, let's see, instead of 14, about 14.5 million in fund balance ending the year.
And again, so everybody knows, what's the significance of that for our borrowing capability with these two large capital projects coming up of the schools and the jail?
Well, it depends on which rating agency you use, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, or Fitch. They all vary, but they're going to look at your fund balance and hope it's probably around 20% of your expenditures.
And where are we now?
I didn't know I was in math class.
Sorry.
But that's county general fund balance.
Yeah, they look at debt service too. So give me 1 second and I'll do the math. Randy, you got it, or do you want me to do it?
And we're only hitting on my motion, if I can add to that, $300,000 from debt service.
Exactly.
That's all we're hitting. We're not hitting county general. Okay. So that what's projected to be the ending fund balance in county general right now with my motion is the same. The only difference that I made is moving that 2 cents from the schools from debt service into capital projects. Am I being clear?
Oh,
now,
no, absolutely.
we may have to hit county general if we don't have enough money in capital projects to fund everything, but we think we do. I mean, everything's a guess, sure. But we believe that money will be there. So the point I'm making is we're talking about $300,000 difference in hitting fund balances. That's it.
30%.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I intend to support this.
I think we've had a lot of motions that have been thrown up against the wall, and the high ones haven't stuck, and the real low ones haven't stuck, so I think we're about to get to a sweet spot here. I believe that the recommendation that came out of the Budget Committee was fiscally responsible. It wasn't perfect. I didn't get everything in it that I thought should be there, but there were some other things that I would have cut that were not cut. With 24 people, you're going to have to come up with a compromise budget, and I think this is a good compromise. This is local government. The money's going to be spent locally. It's going to be spent on our people. It's going to be spent on our resources. We're not funding things far away. This is for us. So I support it. For those of you who voted no on everything in the past, if you support 51% of this, vote for it. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we've cut 3 cents out. On the 22 cents, does the sheriff get 5 SROs?
No.
You know, I believe, and some of the commissioners that was here with me, I believe we told him that we would fund the other SROs this year. Of course, there's 12 not here anymore, but I'd like to see him get his SROs.
Commissioner Dunn.
I'd like to call for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Ready?
I guess I'm going to have to raise a point of order.
Yes, sir.
Calling for the question needs a second, and that means ceasing debate. So you're looking at a 2/3 vote to do what she's asked to do. If you're ready to vote, you don't need that motion. Am I making sense?
Sure.
But if we go with a call for the question, then we've got a whole different scenario as far as parliamentary procedures.
Yes.
So let me ask, is there any more discussion before we go through that? Raise your hand if there is. You okay with proceeding? Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Mr. Clerk?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're taking handsets, if you favor that motion, vote yes. If you do not favor the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote, please. All votes are in. Does anyone wish to change their vote anywhere?
Can I move we take a 10-minute recess, please?
Let's take a 10-minute recess.
That motion failed, by the way. I'm going to have to make that as a declaration as clerk. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 10 yes, 13 no. Motion fails.
Okay, everybody in their seats. Mr. Ford? He was here. He's in the restroom. Okay, we'll wait for him. That's a good reason to be absent. Thank you, sir.
Glad you're back, Mr. Ford.
Okay, commissioners. Everybody here? All right, so we're back to the tax levy. I need a motion from somebody to propose something else. Okay, Commissioner Donadio? He pushed his button, Commissioner Martin.
You gotta be faster on the buzzer. I have a motion that we go with the last one as stated, but funding those additional 3 SROs at a fund balance.
Okay, so the last motion was at $2.92, which
Was it $2.92?
which reduced the 2 cents out of schools, the 2.5 cents out of county general, and added 1.5 cent to roads.
Exactly.
And
So,
continued
and
with
keep the
300
motion that was passed for county clerk.
Okay.
And then we fund those additional 3 SROs from fund balance.
And
So we have the total of 5 SROs.
So that's $90,000 per SRO.
It is.
96,000. I know, I should know 96 times 3, but I want to, Wayne McHenry,
298.
298?
Yeah.
298,000, so 298,000 out of fund balance, general fund. It's going to be a recurring cost.
It is. It's 1.72 cents-ish, if I did my math right.
Okay, I have a motion. Does everybody understand the motion? I have a second, Commissioner Holmes. Everybody understand the motion?
No.
Okay. Reducing county general by 2.5 cents. Reducing schools by 2 cents. Adding to the road fund 1.5 cents. We're putting $300,000 in capital projects from debt service for school capital projects. 300,000 more. We're doing $400,000 to capital projects for sheriff's vehicles. We're putting $10,000 in the deputies, or is it deputy line item, Wayne? Salaries, other salaries line item. 10,000 more, and he's moving 15,000 from part-time personnel. Everybody understand?
Now, let me ask a question. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have. Well, I'm assuming, Mr. Martin, you speaking to the motion, or are you speaking to something else?
No, I'll defer over.
Okay.
Mine was more of a discussion.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, is this, which I'm 100% for, the SRO funding, is this a one-year reprieve out of the?
It has to be. We only commit ourselves one budget year.
Okay.
We cannot commit ourselves to the next budget year.
Okay.
It also will include maintenance of effort, so you'll have to fund it every year. Whether you do it out of fund balance or additional revenue, whatever that may be, you'll have to fund it.
At the current penny rate, it's 1.71-ish, if I did my math right.
Yep. Any further discussion?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
If I may, and Sheriff, you help me here, the 98 is also everything, uniforms, it's the vehicle, it's not just hiring 3 SROs. That 90 number you quoted is everything.
That's correct, and actually I was mistaken. It's 96 for a deputy, and it's actually about 88 for an SRO.
Can I ask, if I may then, how much of that is for the person, how much is it for other items?
38.5 is the salary, and then all the rest of it is for items, including vehicle.
So that's 88.
Then my question is this: can we take what is not the person and move that to a fund that we can move out, in other words, to a capital projects fund? You follow? Because that's a one-time expense, if I understand it, the uniform, the car, all the other things that get us to that 96 is one time. The only thing that'll be reoccurring is the person. So we can reduce, and Mr. Porter, you help me here. Can we do that above the 38.5 in a capital project?
No, benefits are not included.
So there's another.
Food salary supplements, which would be recurring every year, $800 for the surgery this tax.
You're looking at, you're looking at about another $40,000 a year in benefits that's not included in his number. To answer that question, your question, Mike, would be is if we fund the other three vehicles, which is basically $150,000,
You would have, the line items that are affected are 140 salary supplements. That would be 800. That'd be recurring every year by legislature. 196 is the training that goes along with it. 451, 499, 716, and of course 718, which is the vehicles. Those would be the one-time expenditure, short of the uniform allowance, which is about $500 a year.
So my question is, can we move that amount to somewhere that we can find a fund to pay for it, and then only have an increase through the general fund of the people themselves? We can do that.
yes, sir, you just, you're now really dropping capital projects fund balance, getting it down low to where I don't think I'd be comfortable with it. So if you're gonna do that, we need to move some money, either more money out of debt service or some money out of county general fund balance to fund that.
So it really doesn't matter then if I'm gonna move it out of general into capital projects, we still have to vote for it again next year anyway. So that we haven't accomplished anything, and that's what I'm trying to see if we can accomplish.
Well, his stuff on the cars and the stuff is a one-time purchase, right?
One time, it'd be recurring every 4 to 5 years, depending on mileage and hours on it.
But my understanding, though, we had 16 cars, and those 3 were in that 16 that we have funded. Am I not? That's already in the budget. Okay.
100 and some odd thousand out when the 3 got cut.
Okay. All right. I'm just trying to understand if there's anywhere else to move some money to try and
I understand. I think the coming out of fund balance for the one times is certainly amenable to me and probably most of us on here, especially if we can get all 5 of those SROs in the schools, which seems to be a sticking point.
Well, let me just address where I'm from. I personally do not like to fund reoccurring expenses out of general. I don't. I'd rather see us add them. I'd just rather see us add to the 19 cents or whatever it is and go back to the 22 if that's where we need to get and have it funded so that from this point on, we don't have to worry about it. He doesn't have to worry about it. Every year we don't have to face it again. And as he said, we're going in the hole already. We're going to have to look at some things next year that we're not funding this year. If that's going to be another one, then we're looking at $300,000 more. So, again, I'm just making comment, Mr. Chair. I am going to have trouble voting yes on funding something out of county general. I'd rather see the motion be add the 3 cents or 2 cents. I guess it's 2 cents. But how much was it for the 3?
At the 96,000, I believe it's 1 point. It's 80. I'd have to redo my math, but it was 1.716, 1.72 with the 3 SROs. That's at the 96,000 that we originally. But it's 88. So I haven't redone the math.
I'm just saying I'd prefer, and I'm just making a comment. I'd prefer see if they add that to the tax levy and have it paid for from this point on. We know that we're not going to cut them. We know they're going to be there. Step up to the plate and say we're going to fund them. So I'm just making a comment, and I'm for them. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm not for paying for them out of fund balance.
So if I were to amend my motion, where are we going to be at on the rate with the funding, the SROs? And I hate to ask you to do my math.
20.6 if you said 1.6, and my motion was 19, so.
We'd be at 20 and a half? Ish? So you know what, I'm gonna amend my motion. 20 and a half, and we fund those 3 SROs. We have the total of 5 SROs in the schools, and the 1.5 for roads, Wayne gets his person, and that's where we're at. That's my motion.
So, we had a motion, but you initiated the first motion. Can he
Am I
not
allowed
just
to change
restate
it?
his motion and change it? Or since?
No, we did not.
Okay. Okay, so he can restate it, right? Okay, so now we're to the original motion of what you just said. And could you please restate it?
Okay. We're gonna be following the same motion that Commissioner Atwood put forward. We're going to keep the 1.5 for roads. We're gonna keep the 1 additional employee for the clerk's office. We're going to fully fund the 5 SROs for the schools.
And then the school system budget, everything else stays the same.
And we're just gonna follow the previous motion as it comes to the schools and the change in fund balance for the capital projects.
Yeah. No fund balance.
Is it 1.6 or 1.7? 1.6?
Well, someone's gonna need to redo that math because it's not 96,000. 88,000? It's 1.5?
So, Mr. Chairman, can I ask, make sure we're clear, Commissioner Donadio, you're looking at 13 cents on county general then, right? It was 11 and a half, and then you added 1.5 back to it for the SROs, so 13 cents on county general.
Yes,
6 on schools,
that's correct.
1.5 on roads,
Yes,
for a total of 20.5 cent increase, right?
yes,
And you're funding all 5 SROs.
that is correct.
Wayne's new position in his office with that $10,000 move.
That wasn't changed. I duplicated his, just added the money for the additional SROs.
$400,000 in sheriff's patrol cars to capital projects and $300,000 in school projects to capital projects.
I did.
So I got a tax rate of $2.936.
I'm not gonna, 2935 or 2936, so we're
Well, it's
difference of 1 and 100 of
1.6 cents to fund $88,000 times 3.
Yeah.
20.6.
Okay.
So 293.6. Okay. We had Commissioner Williams, you seconded it, right? I did. Okay. Commissioner Tate.
If we continue, taking out of the fund balance, is that gonna put us in a bad position if we?
Can you
have
speak
a
into the
major-
microphone, please?
If we had a major catastrophe and we keep taking out of the fund balance, is that gonna make it's gonna hurt us, correct?
Well, at some point, it depends on the amount, Commissioner Tays. If you're looking at $100,000 or $200,000 a year, it'd take a long time to get us into that. But if you start doing that more often, and we took $1.2 million out of fund balance this past year because we built it up to pay the jail medical, the new parking lot, and that kind of stuff. At some point, if we have a bad year, that's when it would hurt us. As long as we have good years, we're probably okay. But if we have a bad year, it could hurt us. I'm kind of like Mike. I like this better. If you're going to fund it, and if you're instead of trying to take it out of fund balance.
Commissioner Neal.
I was just gonna, what Commissioner Atwood said a few minutes ago, I was gonna ask the equipment for these new additional SROs, can we take just the equipment out of the fund balance and not the positions, and go ahead and put the positions, fund them with the new tax levy? What would that do for it?
I believe he wants to amend it so that we're paying for the capital aspect of it, the cars and the equipment, and then just paying the SROs themselves out of the tax levy, correct?
The recurring things to come out of the taxes, the tax increase. The other items that are not recurring to come out of fund balance. That's what I'm saying.
I think I had us at 175 with 3 SROs plus benefits that you mentioned, plus the $800 supplements. That's one, I had it at 175. So for 3 SROs, their supplements per year, $800, plus benefits, roughly estimated by Mayor Porter, is gonna be 175. So then you can take the other equipment part as a one-time purchase out of fund balance if you choose to.
About $140,000 according to Mike, that would be non-recurring, it doesn't have anything to do with their salary, benefits, and all that kind of stuff, is that right?
That's what, close to a penny though, right?
Well, I mean,
So that's what I suggest.
so you're, instead of 1.6 added back, you're doing a penny. But you haven't made that amendment officially, so but that's what you're thinking, right?
That's exactly.
Since I've had a second, I'm not gonna, I'll amend to that.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Atwood,
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Well, I think we're confused about what the motion is, so we'll get to that in just a minute. What I understand, though, was that when we put the numbers together on what Mr. Neal was asking us, we were at 140,000 that we were not reoccurring expenses. Is that right, Mr. Porter? 140. So that's almost a penny. It's not hardly a penny. I mean, 166 is your penny. So you're probably only looking at a 4 cent increase. What is the rest of that number? You got 140 non-reoccurring. What is reoccurring?
You got the salaries, you got the benefits, you got the training, you got the uniform.
Can you give me a number?
He's working on it right now.
Okay. That would be your increase. Whatever number he comes up with as opposed to 1.6 increase, whatever number he comes up and how that attaches to 166,000 will be our penny.
272,600. Plus 32% benefits on top of that.
What, 272?
Something's wrong.
140.
It couldn't have been 1.6 then.
I think you can basically drop it a penny from 20.6 to 19.6 and cover his non-recurring stuff out of fund balance if you want to. That's $140,000. That's not going to make that much difference in fund balance. So you could be at 19.6 if you wanted to be.
What number?
19.6.
With the five SROs.
With the 5 SROs. Just remember, go back to what Ben said though, we're counting on a good year. We're counting on revenue coming in good. We're counting on the elected officials and department heads turning back in $1 million, which they have since I've been in office. But we're just remember, for us to have a bad year, you might hit fund balance $1 million or more. But right now you're funding the non-recurring stuff out of fund balance, and only the recurring is in the taxes. So that's better than the previous.
And I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but would it not be, Mr. Porter, more conducive to move from fund balance into capital projects and then fund it out of capital projects to eliminate the maintenance of effort?
You could do that.
You follow what the non-reoccurring, if we take it out of fund balance and put it into capital and then fund it out of capitals, we don't have maintenance of effort in that non-reoccurring expenses, that 140,000.
The only thing that makes of effort is the personnel side of it, their wages. So any uniform, any equipment, any car, anything like that, we don't have to worry about that
regardless of where it's funded.
That's right.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Commissioner Moss?
Thank you. I'm unclear about something. Sheriff and Director, we give you these SROs. There was a little question a while ago, hesitant about, is this going to put one in every school? Are we still going to have schools that's not going to have somebody in it? Every school. Not on the road going back and forth, but.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes, just to put perspective to the dollars and cents on this, at 20.6 cents, that works out to about an increase of $98 per year. If you have a home valued at $200,000, that's $8.16 per month. So for the price of a Starbucks coffee, We can have school security in all our schools. We could have increased funding to our schools. It's not everything they need, but it's progress. We can have an updated fleet for the sheriff's department. We can really make some progress, and I think it's worth a cup of coffee at Starbucks. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Wilson?
I gotta clarify, is it 20.6 or is it 19.6? Or is it pulling the money out of fund, but which one was it?
19.6.
19.6.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes. I think it's time to restate the motion, so we all know what we're doing, okay?
You really don't like me, do you, Jim?
Oh, this is your job, isn't it, Ben?
We've been here for several hours, and I think everybody needs to know what they're voting.
Okay. We are at a tax rate of $292.6. Okay? Randy, you paying attention? Make sure that puts us at county general instead of 98.5. What is that? What'd you have? County general?
13.
Well. So it puts county general at 97.5.
97 point, yeah, he's right, 97.6.
Brings it down,
No, well, yeah, .976.
basically 12 cents on county general, is that right? 12 point.
So that would take county general to what?
We actually,
12.2 or 3 or something like that.
No, I mean,
12.24.
So 12.25 basically for rounded off.
so it would be at what?
That's 19.75.
Mr. Chairman, if I understood the motion right, at 19.6, that'd be 1.5 for roads additional, 6 for schools additional, and 12.1 for county general additional.
What'd you say, Chris?
Yes.
Get your microphone, Chris.
1.5
Chris,
additional.
get your microphone, please, sir.
1.5 additional for roads, which would take it to 12.5, 6 additional for schools, which would take it to 97, and 12.1 for county general, which would take it to,
Yeah, 12.1 or 12.25?
12, well, if it was 19.6, 12.1. If it was 19.75, it'd be 12.25.
So
We
puts
floated,
county general.
we floated around about 15 different numbers.
Right,
so.
I'll just clarify.
Puts county general at 96.6.
That would be right.
.966 is what I have.
With a total tax rate of 292.
293.6.
Yep.
293.
Yeah, that would be right. Yep.
293.
That's, okay. I think we better make sure we got our numbers right here.
So county general is going to be at .966 instead of .985. The proposed was .985.
Yeah.
Which was 14 cents, correct?
Yeah.
And we're at 12.1 now, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you are correct.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
so that puts us at .966.
Okay.
Because you're taking out 1.9 or 1.19. So that puts us instead of 98.5, 966. All right. Schools instead of .99, .97. County road fund instead of .11, .125. For a total rate of $2.93.936.
293.
Everybody good?
Everybody happy?
And 5 SROs paid for.
Yes.
All right.
We're at .196 increase.
So it makes the total.
Less than 20, Jerry.
Commissioner Jordan Wannerman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To be clear, is this 6 cents or 8 cents for schools?
It's 6
6
now.
cents for schools. What I was gonna add, if we remove that 1.5 cent increase for roads, we're back at Mr. Atwood's original motion, 18 cents. We're back at that, around that same number. It was 18.1 cents, I guess it would be, so pretty close to that, where we were coming full circle at the beginning of the evening. So that's something to keep in mind. If we're gonna fund 3 SROs, that's a choice that. I mean, I think SROs are a much higher priority. I mean, again, no doubt the roads are critical, but we're doing a good job there. But if we can remove that 1.5 cents so we can pay for those SROs, and again, that's, I think, a higher priority that our citizens have is that security in the schools. So that's something to be mindful of as well.
Commissioner Wilson?
I think the 1.5 cents is needed for these patrol officers to be able to run on. So I think it needs to stay a stand, that's my opinion.
Any further discussion? 2.936. Are you good, Mr. Clerk?
I'm good.
Would you mind calling the roll, please?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you're in favor of the motion, setting it at 2.93.6. If you're in favor of the motion, adds what was told, and vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. I am beyond happy to report that 14 votes yes, 9 votes no, no abstain, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Next item for the budget proposal. If you'll flip forward to the resolution rounding property tax amounts to the nearest dollar. For the sake of God and time, I'm not reading this resolution. If you don't mind. You've had it, you can read it. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We do have to do a roll call. Any discussion?
Now this is
Mr. Clerk? Yes, sir.
resolution. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to bear with me.
Resolution rounding property tax amounts to the nearest dollar.
All right, if you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, we have 18 voting yes, 5 no, and 1 absent. Motion carries. Be patient here. All right.
Next, we have to do each fund individually. So we will start with the general fund. The appropriations, I don't know what the total is, but I can make the statement we approve the general fund appropriations as amended by the previous motions made on the tax levy. Mayor Porter.
You have to trust us, we're gonna change it to match that, because there's no way to do that tonight unless y'all wanna take a long recess and let's go do it. It's gonna take a while.
Let's take a long recess.
I need a motion.
I make a motion that Randy take care of that.
Second.
Who seconded that? Mr. Williams?
Commissioner Bernardo, would you second? Second. Have a motion and second. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk, whenever you're
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, I have 22 voting yes, 1 no, 1 absent. That motion carries for general fund.
Next fund is Solid Waste Sanitation Fund. That appropriation is $5,682,196.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Who did the second? Commissioner Wilson.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, in favor of the motion, vote yes. If not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, 23, all 23 voting for, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Next fund is the Debt Service Fund, total appropriation of, well, that's changing now. So same thing, just have to trust Mayor Porter and Debbie that they get the numbers right.
Motion to trust.
Have a motion second, any discussion?
Who seconded?
Commissioner Jordan Wise.
All right. Take your handsets, ladies and gentlemen. In favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. You have 23 voting for, 1 absent. Motion carries, Mr. Chairman. Give me just a second. All right. Thanks, sir.
Next fund is the Putnam County Highway Fund, appropriation of $5,595,175.
Motion. That's not gonna change?
The expenses won't. I mean, he can amend it later, but we didn't add any expenses to his budget, we just gave him revenue.
So basically, at this point, we've just added to his fund balance.
He was hitting fund balance, I think, so.
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. In favor of the motion, vote yes. If not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Here we go. Excellent.
Next is the Child Nutrition Fund, appropriation of $7,400,000.
Motion approved.
Second. Have a motion to second, any discussion?
All right. Take your handsets, ladies and gentlemen. In favor of the motion, vote yes. Not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Excellent. Mr. Chair, you have 23 voting yes, 0 no, and 1 absent. Motion carries.
Next fund is the Extended School Program Fund. Appropriation of $1,368,870. I'm sorry, Mr. Clerk. With a motion from Jordan Wanzen, second from Ms. Bradford. Any discussion? Extended School Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, check your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, all 23 voting for, 1 absent, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, can we make sure that none of the people that's supposed to be voting on the funds have voted on any of the funds?
Yeah, Mr. Robertson retired, that's why I didn't mention.
He abstained?
He's retired, he's
He's
not working
retired.
for highway funding.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
Okay.
I didn't know it either.
Thank you, but yeah, he mentioned that to me recently.
Okay, we'll just
So-
make sure on the schools and everything.
Yep. Next is Drug Control Fund. Appropriation $195,000.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Mr. Chairman, all 23 vote yes, 1 absent.
Next is Industrial Economic Development Fund, appropriation of $731,015. Have a motion and a second. Mr. Joy Lonzon, second. Ms. Bradford. Any discussion?
Economic.
Industrial economic.
Industrial economic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. All 23 votes yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Next is the Capital Projects Fund. That number has changed as well.
Motion to trust.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Capital Projects Fund?
All right, no discussion. All right. If you favor the motion, take your handsets, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All right. There you go. It's getting weak and worn over here, everybody. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All right. Mr. Chairman, all 23 vote for.
I do believe
one
Commissioner Wilson has just created a new Roberts rule.
That's right.
Next fund is Preservation of Records Fund, appropriation of $97,060.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
All right. If you favor the motion, take your handsets, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All 23 vote yes, 0 no, 1 is absent. Motion carries. All right, good deal.
The next fund is Preservation of Records Fund. I'm sorry, other special revenue fund, which has preservation of records in it as well. That's $700. Other special revenue fund.
Okay.
Wow. $700.
$700. Don't spend that all in one place.
Have a motion, a second?
Who seconded that?
Who did the motion?
Cindy?
Okay.
Okay. Good deal. All right, take your hands. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote right now. Thank you. Sorry. Excellent. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Mr. Chairman, all 23 vote yes. 1 absent. Motion carries.
Next fund is Sports and Recreation Fund. Parks and Fair Boards, $1,149,149.70. Other social recreation, $129,350.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? All 23 vote yes, Mr. Chairman. 1 absent.
Next fund is Community Development Fund, appropriation $143,950.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Community Development Fund.
Oh, okay. And who seconded that?
Who seconded
Ms.
that?
Pace. Okay. All right.
I think Ms.
So
Adams.
was-
Huh?
Okay, got it. Ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you're in favor of the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wish to change their vote anywhere? Mr. Chairman, 23 votes yes again, and 1 absent. Motion carries.
And the last fund, General Purpose School Fund, appropriation $98,725,432. 5 commissioners, you know who you are. If you don't mind abstaining, please.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. Mark, second, Jim Martin. Any discussion?
All right. Take your handsets, and if you favor the motion, vote yes. Mr. Bradford, Atwood, TR, Mr. Holmes, and Mr. Neal, you have to abstain. Forget. You must abstain. All All right, all votes are in. Anyone wants to change their vote anywhere? Excellent. Mr. Chairman, I have 18 voting yes, 0 no, correct 5 abstain, and 1 is absent. Motion carries.
Now we move to vote on the appropriation resolution. It's the summary of all the funds and their appropriations and the sections within that to discuss our authority to have a budget, to spend the budget, and also it discusses our sales tax appropriation, our fund balance transfers from one to the other. There are 16 sections.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any discussion?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. Stop right there, please. Oh, everybody can vote, nobody's restrained on abstaining this one, I hope. Everybody understood that.
Yes.
Okay. So if you did, anybody that wished to change their vote, everybody okay? All right, here we go. Let's just say that ahead of time. Mr. Chairman, I have 23 voting yes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
And the last one to finalize our budget process is a resolution making appropriations to nonprofit, charitable, and civic organizations benefiting Putnam County, Tennessee.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Who's saying that?
Commissioner Castle.
Wow.
Any discussion?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, take your handsets. If you favor the motion, vote yes. If you're not in favor of the motion, vote no. Everyone, please vote. All votes are in. Anyone wants to change their vote anywhere? All 23 votes yes, 1 absent. Motion carries.
Moving forward on our agenda. Item 7C, other unfinished business.
There's an agenda.
Item 8, new business and action thereon by the board. A, report of standing committees. Planning committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The planning committee recommends approval to transfer a 2016 Ford F-450 chassis from the Putnam County EMS to School Transportation Department. Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Item B, recommends approval of a resolution adopting regulations governing the permitting process for short-term rental properties. Motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Well,
Sorry.
yeah, we had somebody who wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware. Next time you wanna speak, come get me before the meeting and I'll be glad to recognize you. I'll be glad to let you speak now, we've already approved the resolution. Come on up.
State his name, please.
Mayor Cookville. I was given a copy of this a couple weeks ago and had a chance to review it. Now, with the copy I was given, that the highlighted portions of it were told to me that they were taken out. I've conceded the idea that there's going to be a permitting process and you all feel the need to regulate. But there are a few things in here that are not doable and just bear a little bit more discussion maybe in some of the language. I'll bring them up. I had a list of questions and I was waving at them when you said any discussion, but any matter. The proof of insurance, are we not allowed to self-insure? Are there other businesses that this requirement is demanded from? Notification to other owners. The word adjacent is nebulous at best and ambiguous in some instances. How is everyone within 500 feet has to be notified, and why? If we're already entitled to have that use, why do we have to tell anyone? Are there other uses that have this imposition placed on them? The two that were most concerning to me and frankly undoable, I've checked with the fire marshal's office. They don't issue life safety compliances for single family anything, short-term rental or anything. Frankly, aren't doable and merit more discussion and review. The other questions I had were why as an owner, is there a prejudice against someone who wants to stay someplace less than 18 hours? Why is it not permissible to rent to someone for that period of time? And the owners, this guest log, is there just a morbid curiosity as to who's staying there? Why do we have to keep a log for the commission's benefit? And then if the sleeping room has cooking facilities in it, such as a microwave, I guess we're allowed to cook in it. I mean, is it just a microwave? Can we have a stove? I mean, what that just says such as a microwave is just anything that creates heat we're allowed to have. It just, again, another ambiguous term there. And then how does this apply and overlap with, you all are the county, and I mean, where does the line of separation stop between units that are in the city and what your expectations are to be permitted and taxes remitted? And then I think that was it.
Thanks, sir. Anybody want to address this question? We're basically trying to move on, but we have a committee still in place. They can meet at any time, so the committee doesn't dissolve now, it's still there. So he stated some questions, the committee wants to meet again, address those. This is a resolution that can change at any time.
Truly, you voted on a resolution. How do I get a certificate that you require that's not possible? Just tell me how to do that and I'll go to work.
Anybody want to address that? Commissioner Dunn?
I think Freddie Nelson's office will be taking care of that.
I just talked to him, he didn't know either.
He and I'll get together.
No, I mean, why is Freddie Nelson in charge of life safety?
Oh, I'm sorry, on life safety.
Yeah, how do I get that life safety certificate that the fire marshal doesn't issue?
We're asking if they comply with the state fire marshal code. That's all that we're asking.
They have no governing.
And the deal is this, again, just like Commissioner Rogers said, he wants to bring it back to the committee, we talked about it then, the commission's already voted.
Yeah. Sure, and they've told me to get a certificate that doesn't exist. How do I get that?
I cannot answer that question. I'll get with Mayor Porter tomorrow, Mr. Neighbors, all those involved, committee members, will get you an answer.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. That completes the
Thank you,
plan.
Madam Chairman. Fiscal Review Committee? Wow.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Chair, for the way you've handled tonight. This has been a three-ring circus. We've accomplished a lot, and I'm thankful, but I want to commend you on the job you've done, so thank you. And with that, I say, no report from Fiscal Review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nominating Committee.
We have a couple of things. Nominating Committee recommends the reappointments of the following as judicial commissioners for 4-year terms to expire August 1st, 2023. There are two people on the list, Thomas Derricks. I'm asking you to approve that tonight. But Britt Lynn, we want to put him off until next month, per recommendation of Mr. Porter.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Have a motion?
I so move.
Okay. Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next on the list, recommends approval of the Putnam County Library Board's reappointment of Catherine Weisinger to the Library Board for a 3-year term to expire June 2022, and I so move. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's approved.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Report of special committees. Resolutions.
There are no resolutions, Mr. Chairman.
Election notaries.
Here we go. Pretty good list. Kimberly Ayers, Miriam J. Bailey, Doris Campbell, Amy Carr, Kelsey Copeland, John Crouch, David Day, Mark Dial, Janice Dildine, Amy M. Dillon, Marie C. Ferrand, Deborah H. Foster, Chelsea Goff, Emily Brooke Green Burton, Jamie R. Gunter, Jacqueline Marie Hill, Rebecca L. Hooper, April D. Howard, Paula Johnson, Sheila Victoria Lanham, Jeff Lavrikich, Denise Mabey, Teresa Meadows, Emily Melton, David Melton, Jennifer Murray, Cynthia Ogletree, Tara Pullen, Brandy Michelle Savage, and Nadine Faye Shera.
Second.
Any discussion on election notaries? Ms. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
All right, we have to vote this one by handset, ladies and gentlemen. So let me push that button right there. If you take your handsets and vote for me on this item tonight, please. You've done great. And I'm just going to hit yes. Here we go. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, all 23 vote for. 1 absent. Motion carries on.
Item E, other new business, recognize cash flow analysis for the general purpose school fund. It is attached with your agenda. Number 9, announcements and statements. Number 10, motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.